Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the interview room. I had to cover this, I'm telling you. I'm just watching the way things are setting up here, and I told Karen, I said, this is going to be a long night. You see all these, I mean, just right here, they're shooting 40 cals at them. They're basically foam or rubber. And they've set all these benches up there, hiding behind them. And what they'll do is they'll ricochet them. They'll shoot in front of them. See how it just got that guy in the leg on the right? They'll ricochet them through the environment there. And man, this brings back so many memories. They just lit up 4 Waymos or 3 Waymos. Those are those automatic electric cars that you can order and send them down. Sorry about that. I'm streaming one of the LA news stations, so let me skip this. But anyway, they ordered these cars down there. Somebody did, which they'll be able to trace it back. Not the sharpest bulb in the pack. And then they lit them all on fire. But the picture you see to the left with the folks hiding behind the benches, it's going to be interesting. Let's listen. Hang on here.
The Waymos, when we first got here, what was it, an hour and a half ago? And I was first pointing out how they were tagged and how people were jumping on top of them, trying to break the windows. And then shortly after, they were on fire. And now look at them. They are gone. I mean, it's just remarkable how quickly this happened. It took a while for firefighters to get here, but they arrived, and the smoke has really dissipated, though you notice I am wearing my mask because the smell is quite overwhelming and it's not pleasant. So I'm doing that just for our own safety.
Sure.
But firefighters on the scene here really just...
Karen just looked through the door and smiled.
These wrecks, just
Are you having fun?
Everybody is over
I said,
here,
we just started.
taking video and pictures of them. This, of course, is the more destructive, more violent side of what is happening here in downtown Los Angeles, and certainly not what anyone supports, what city
The
leaders,
thumbnail
national leaders,
that I
state
put up,
leaders
you'll see
do not
that was
support
me
this.
on the
They
right.
support, people's
In Compton.
right to peacefully protest.
Last night they
This is
were
very over the line,
burning
obviously.
Compton down.
Very dangerous and very destructive. Otherwise, the crowd around here does seem to be lightening, I will say. In the last couple of minutes, it's been a long day. Perhaps people are heading home, but it does seem to be thinning out, which perhaps predicts a calmer night, or maybe a new wave will show up. We don't know. But still a lot to handle here in downtown Los Angeles, even though it does seem to be lightening up. Traffic.
Yes, I was there. South Central 92.
Which is good news, of course, as well. Oops, don't want to get too close to this.
No,
right?
yeah, step away there.
And so those batteries are very dangerous.
Yeah,
chemicals.
We've been seeing that for
I can feel that.
at
Look
least
at the
an hour and a
horseshoe
half or so.
they're
That goes to the these are EVs, right? There's explosions coming from within after these fires, and adds to the danger of an already dangerous
Yeah,
situation.
that's a great question. Protesting what? They're protesting
Right, and that's
the
also
federal
that kind
government
of
from
situation
deporting.
is why I was so surprised when people stayed so close to this burning car and these burning cars. I mean, it's so unpredictable when any kind of car is on fire, but especially these electric vehicles. There are other considerations when they are burning, and it's not any place that people need to be. But again, as the firefighters deal with this, to the left, Mojo, if you can
Thank you, Heather.
show this protester drumming kind of in the billowing smoke. So, two different situations happening at the same time, and just really emblematic of the chaos that is taking over downtown Los Angeles for now. What are we in the third day of protests here?
So,
the
like I
third
was
day, and
mentioning,
back to you guys.
these pink benches that
Thank
they're
you.
hiding
We
behind,
are hearing from
those with the
U.S.
left
Attorney
lethal,
Bill
which are typically the green
as
type of
well
weapons,
as Homeland
they can shoot.
Secretary,
They're a
Security
soft
Secretary,
40
that
through a
these
40 caliber
ICE
cannon type of
detentions,
device,
these ICE detainments happening
or
throughout
they
Los
can.
Angeles, those are
Did you see that
expected
guy
to
right there to the
continue
left?
for
Just roll
days.
and get hit.
I want to
I'll
say
tell you
earlier
what,
that we
man,
heard
if you get hit
possibly
with one of those,
weeks now. They will continue here in Los
you're
Angeles.
going to
Was
be
it 30
calling
days,
mommy
Mike? Do you know?
because it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
I don't think his mic's on. He's going to get his mic back on here. But yeah, he did confirm for me 30 days here, possibly.
Yeah, I've
he's gonna
seen
work
this.
on getting that right, Mike.
It won't.
But it's this
It won't end well.
situation that the mayor and the governor says has prompted all of this escalation and tension.
True story.
And if that continues, the question is, will we continue to see these situations play out on our streets, not only here in downtown LA, but throughout the county?
Right, and something the U.S. Attorney, the Secretary for Homeland Security, as you pointed out, Leslie, and then other Trump administration officials, as you take a look at, it looks like some protesters, they're running just ever so briefly by that barricade. Those officials have painted the picture of, we are getting criminals off the streets and deported out of the country, that this is targeted enforcement and trying to clean up the streets and get dangerous criminals off of out of our neighborhoods and out of our areas. Whereas, of course, the governor and the mayor and everybody else and other elected officials we've talked to are countering that narrative and saying, no, this is escalating tensions by deploying the National Guard and even having Marines on standby.
By hiding behind those
worse, that there are more than
benches, they're going to be looking for
handle the situation here,
access
and that the
points
primary
to
focus is on
ricochet
peacefully
those rounds.
protesting and having your voice heard.
And what they'll do is
the
they'll
mayor's
shoot
saying this is
about
ramping up,
5 feet in
fear
front of them.
among,
They won't shoot right at the
students.
pink bench
LASC,
there.
I believe, is holding
See the
a
guy
press
with the
conference
green?
tomorrow early to address
Third guy over with the
how they're
green harness
handling
there.
possible
That guy
immigration
has the
enforcement, not
lethal,
only possibly at their schools, but
least
surrounding their schools. As
lethal.
families are making
It's a
their
40
way to
cal
school, so we're expecting
with
to hear
rubber.
from LAUSD Superintendent Carvalho
It's a foam
tomorrow
chamber.
on this.
You put it in,
And we're expecting
boom,
that
and it'll shoot like
these
5 feet in
immigration
front,
sweeps,
and it will
or
skip,
as
and he'll try to get it underneath those benches. So watch every once in a while you see somebody grab their legs.
search warrants. They
Not a
will
good
continue for at
feeling.
least 30 days here in Los Angeles.
And it'll be interesting to see how those federal immigration authorities do those in the days forward, right? We have seen them be able to do immigration enforcement operations in a much more low-key, kind of covert way than they did Friday and Saturday. The incidents on Friday and Saturday were highly visible. There was a lot of personnel. They were heavily armed.
Home Depot parking lots.
Right. We've seen them carry out
these
operations
bitches
in a much more, I don't want to say discreet is the right word, but in a less visible way than they did on Friday and Saturday, which makes you wonder if it was intentional that they were that visible, right? There's another bench that is being taken, two benches taken out of the park and being walked over there. A couple people with hard hats and shoulder pads from a football team. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Lots going on down there as the night goes on, but it'll be interesting to see, to your point, those immigration enforcement operations that are supposed to go on for 30 days, how will they conduct
Those
them?
pink
Do they want to
benches were
continue
at the
to
park
make
nearby.
a big show
They went
where
all-
it draws the attention of
brought 'em
protesters
over
and it
here.
draws the attention of the community? or are they going to try to do
I mean,
it
what do
in
you
a
guys
more
think? I mean, when you see
discreet
stuff
way
like
where
this,
they
where they're
carry out their
barricading themselves
operations, but it draws
against law
less attention?
enforcement,
Yeah, and at this point, you wonder,
shouldn't be happening.
will any enforcement draw less attention because tensions are so
I'll never
heightened
forget
at
when we
this
pulled
point
into
here
LA.
They are,
in our community.
and to that point,
They
we
they
got
set us up.
emails
These
from
guys
viewers
here
this
right
morning
there.
saying, "Oh my gosh, they're
with
in
the green.
Pasadena," and we checked with Pasadena, and
There he
they were
goes.
having coffee. You know what I mean? So it's
See
The
that?
same thing in Long Beach.
See the
I
canister he
think
just
there
launched
are
out?
organizations
Those
out
are
there
rubber
who
bullets. And now the
monitor
other ones,
where ICE and
maybe
immigration
bean bags.
enforcement is staging throughout our location so that they can be there to
Right.
give people the correct information. Many times they yell out to those being detained, hey, these are your rights. This
Right.
is a reminder. Even those groups
That
are
guy
saying,
right there,
hey,
just
we
grab
don't
his
want
leg.
false information out there.
That's what I was
You're
talking about.
following
They're going
up
to skip the
on
rounds.
where they're at, but sometimes
You do not want to
they're
be
just
laying
grabbing
down,
coffee. They're
guys
just
and
doing
gals.
that. You're looking at video, though. What you're looking at right now,
This is where they lit
not
the
to change
cars
the
on
subject so
fire
quickly
earlier.
here, but is a video from earlier of those Waymos.
Yep.
You can see them exploding. 6 of them all caught fire here.
Yeah, the one
or all
on-
put, someone intentionally put them on fire there.
Hey, we're going to watch this together.
A lot to keep track of right now as you take the look at the video from earlier and then the live view on the left side of your screen. But on this note, we want to get to LA County Supervisor Janice Han, who I believe we have on the line here.
Okay, I don't think we have her.
It looks like we're going to get that situated there. In the meantime, we'll just keep an eye on this situation here where the number of protesters, and it's interesting because it really speaks to how you have the park there on the left side.
There's City Hall on the other side.
And then City Hall on the other side, and even the barricade that they've sort of tried to establish here is half makeshift, right? It's the pink benches going across, but only up to a certain point, and then a couple of other stands, devices everywhere, however you want to characterize them, over to the right side, and it doesn't seem like there's a strong coalescing of people.
We're hearing that we have Supervisor Janice Han on the line right now. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Supervisor Han, thank you so much for joining us. As you're watching what's unfolding right now in downtown, can you give us your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think I'm echoing what everybody is calling for at this point, and that's, of course, for a peaceful protest. And I know people are being asked to go home, and we're hoping that that happens in a calm way. But what I'm really angry about is that, this was all provoked by the overreach by our federal government to come into our communities. The ICE agents and now the National Guard really causing fear and anxiety among our people. I was in Paramount yesterday, and people were so worried and afraid, and elected officials
These politicians,
were trying to stand up for their
kill me.
communities and getting shot
They're,
with rubber bullets.
their city's on fire.
My call tonight is
And
for a retreat.
they blame
if we
people.
want this to really
They're trying
de-escalate,
to
the federal
remove
government
the law.
needs to retreat.
Doesn't make any sense.
Step away. Let's take a breath. Come back, meet with our sheriffs, meet with our LAPD, meet with our governor, and let's decide how you're going to do these raids, because the way you're doing them is just to continue to upset people, and rightly so. I'm kind of calling on Kristi Noem, our Homeland Security Secretary, who I served in Congress with, to show some compassion and kindness in how they're doing this. If they're going to continue doing this, then we are going to keep having this kind of crowd reaction. So the only way to de-escalate this is for them to step back, remove themselves from Los Angeles, and we need to start this process over.
Supervisor Han, I want to go off of your comment there quickly. I want to draw attention to folks at home who are watching. More barricades are going up down here, coming from the park in downtown LA. I know you mentioned and are calling for a de-escalation by the federal government, but when we were talking to the U.S. Attorney last night, Bill Escalating, and just given the response from the president, from Secretary Noem and other Trump administration officials, it feels as if they are very adamant that this this is, quote, targeted enforcement, that they're getting criminals off the streets, that they are going to approach this in the way that they deem is appropriate for the administration and how to address what they call the issues that are going on around here. So while you're calling for this de-escalation, if that doesn't happen, then what's the approach and how does this get de-escalated in the coming days?
Well, and I'm just going to keep calling on them because we know, in fact, they are not targeting criminals. We know that they are going to, the Home Depot and targeting the day laborers, which we know most of our friends hire to help out with chores at home. They're not going after criminals. They're going after, they consider everybody to be a criminal if they're in this country and they're undocumented. And I just want to push back on that. And if they continue to do this, this is the reaction they're going to get, because people in Los Angeles feel very strongly. We are a city and county of immigrants. My district is 58% Latino in the county of Los Angeles, and of course, people are feeling unsure, insecure, scared, anxious. We know people didn't show up at church this morning because of what the federal government is doing. So they need to really back off and do this in a more organized way. Joe Biden deported 1 million people during his 4 years, and we never saw this kind of reaction. We know in our jails, if they come with a federal warrant, our sheriff is going to be required to turn a convicted criminal who's in our jail over to them. But these kinds of chaotic sweeps and raids into workplaces and Home Depots, these are people who are going to work and earning a living, and may I add, are a huge part of our economy here in Los Angeles County. We depend on them. These are our essential workers.
Which, by the way, is a total lie in terms of
reality
the sheriff turning him over.
this
Sheriff
federal
Luna is a
government
great guy.
is
I know him
exercising
personally.
is causing
I also know
this
Jim McDowell,
kind
who's
of
the
protest. So
LAPD chief,
really push back
police
on
chief
that.
right now.
And I asked them to leave
But
our county.
here's
leave
what's
our
happening.
City. We never asked
When
for the
these
National
criminals
Guard.
are
We
put
certainly
into
don't
the
want
jail
Marines,
with a federal
coming
warrant,
into,
they're
an American
calling
city,
the ICE agents
with that kind of force.
1
So,
hour before
really
they release
disappointed
them.
in the federal government. Really disappointed.
They're not just calling
in
them
our
and saying,
Secretary of
"Hey,
Homeland
we got
Security,
a guy who's
Kristi
committed
Noem. I
murder
was in a Bible study with her, and she's reading a
wherever,
different
Honduras
Bible
here,
than I do.
Supervisor
and we're going to
Han,
let him out in an
your
hour
district targeted in Paramount
because he's got a
yesterday as we're
warrant."
speaking. That
Well,
Home
by the
Depot
time the
where,
authorities get there,
ICE officials
it's too
had
late.
gone to.
The dude's out.
Yesterday,
He's out on
we
the
saw it
streets
all
in Los
play out
Angeles
there,
or
right there in your
wherever in
district.
this country.
Tonight
That's
we're
what's
hearing
really
that National
happening.
Guardsmen are in
And these
Paramount.
politicians
Are you
know it's
hearing
happening, and
anything
it's a shame
about what
that they're putting
they're being
Americans
told
at
to do, what their
risk.
mission is there, where they're being staged at this point?
Right, and I think that I have not. I went there yesterday. I spoke to the elected officials. One of the councilwomen, was shot with a rubber bullet. Our state assembly member, Jose Salachi, was gassed with tear gas yesterday. And I think that's part of the rules of engagement. I don't know what the National Guard has been asked to do. They've never talked to the mayor or the city council of Paramount. They don't know what they're doing, and it's their responsibility to talk to their residents and at least inform them or educate them or try to calm them down. This is an impossible situation when the federal government is not talking to us. And to deploy our own California National Guard against us is so just upsetting to me. I can't remember another time when I've been this upset seeing our own California National Guard being weaponized against us. Look, I lived through the 65 Watts riots. I lived through the 92 uprising. This is not even close to what that was. We didn't ask for them. We don't need them. The LA County Sheriff's Department as well as LAPD are perfectly able to handle this situation. Yes, I'm calling on the protesters to be peaceful. Please don't be throwing rocks and bottles. Please go home for the evening. But I'm also calling on the federal government to leave Los Angeles County as soon as possible so we can take a breath, rethink what's happening. Look, County of LA has gone through the worst natural disaster in our history just 5 months ago. We're just now healing from the devastating fires. And to have our city and county upended like this in such a chaotic fashion, which was started by them. I feel like a mother with children, but he started it. You know what? They did start it. They started flexing their muscles. They started doing these unconscionable sweeps and raids where they weren't targeting violent criminals. They were just targeting
Yes, I'm
people
eating.
who were undocumented. And I
Sorry, I
have
haven't
to
eaten.
stand up and say, I don't think that's what our country is about, and I hope they will decide to retreat.
Well, Supervisor Han.
I don't want to be invaded by our own federal government.
Supervisor Han, going off of those comments, I have to ask you before we let you go about, I know you're calling for peaceful protests and keeping the line on that, because I know you're not the only one calling for that and emphasizing the need to peacefully protest. But I have to draw attention to the fact that as we're live on air right now and viewers are at home watching this, that we're seeing protesters or demonstrators throwing what looks like lime scooters and rocks and other items directly on top of CHP vehicles. How do you maintain the focus on, hey, peacefully protest and de-escalating the situation while images like this are still popping up?
I think also to your question, Gio, is have you been in talks at all with the sheriff about how we try to de-escalate this, especially when our local law enforcement is now being targeted in many of these situations?
Right. Well, I have been in contact with our sheriff, and they knew yesterday that they felt some of the concern was protesters were turning on them. And of course, you know, our sheriff made it very clear that our deputies would not, you know, sit idly by while they were being attacked. They would defend themselves. And clearly, this protest, some of the protesters, not all of them. I would think the majority that I've been watching on the news have been peaceful. There certainly are those now that are burning cars and throwing rocks and bottles. And that is why LAPD and the county sheriff a couple hours ago declared it unlawful assembly. That's their first step in then asking the crowd to disperse. So it looks like the crowds are getting thinner from what I'm watching your news feed. It looks like they're thinning out. I do hope they're going to go home, but I'll tell you, I'm worried. I'm worried about tomorrow and the next day and the next day. We've heard that these raids could go on for, you know, weeks. And I just think it's a tough pill to swallow, you know, to have people not be upset about this. They are upset about this. So I think the better move, the better de-escalation is for ICE to step back from Los Angeles County, the National Guard to step back from LA County. Let us take a breath. Let us heal ourselves. Let us do what our LA County Sheriff and LAPD know how to do and figure out how we're going to go forward and work with this federal government. Because right now, I feel like we're under assault. I feel like, again, we've been invaded when we did not ask for it, nor do we want it.
Hey, Supervisor Han, Mike Rogers here at the desk. I just have one quick question for you. You mentioned it a bit earlier. Has there been any communication between the county and the federal government? I know, you know, we hear you say you're calling on them, but has there been any at all line of communication between elected leaders here in Los Angeles County and the federal government?
That's a good question. I have not talked to all the elected officials. I don't know if any of the other supervisors have had any conversation. I do know that being in Paramount yesterday, where there was an active, you know, ICE were staging at their office building in Paramount, the mayor and the city council said they absolutely had no interaction or no discussion with them. They had no idea what they were doing yesterday. So I haven't been in contact with them, and I don't know if any other elected official has been. I do think I heard our governor had reached out to the Trump administration, and I think Karen Bass has reached out to the Trump administration saying that could we just de-escalate this? But they haven't called me.
Supervisor Janice Han, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective tonight and taking, you know, a few minutes to do that. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's very, very disturbing. This is one of the worst things I've seen for a very long time. I'm very disappointed.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Han. I do want to get to a post on Truth Social by President Trump calling on Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass. He says they should apologize to the people of Los Angeles for the absolutely horrible job that they have done, and this now includes the ongoing LA riots, as he calls them. These are not protesters, they are troublemakers and insurrectionists. Remember, no masks.
And that's something going back to the president said earlier today as well about not allowing masks at protests, despite, of course, not having technically the authority to do something like that.
Well, and Kristi Noem was pressed on that this morning on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. Margaret Brennan straight, pointedly asked Kristi Noem, how would you enforce that? And the secretary wouldn't answer that question. But a very interesting component of that as we watch these CHP cars get destroyed.
On that note, let's get to Lori Perez down in downtown LA. Lori, what are you seeing?
Yeah, we're still here on the overpass over the 101, where the 101 southbound lanes continue to be closed off. You hear the bangs, you hear the explosions continuing, even though the crowd has significantly thinned out. There is still a lot to keep a handle on. You can see the force of law enforcement still on the lanes, down there on the freeway, along the freeway, on the overpasses. Still dozens of people continue. So obviously so dangerous. Can you imagine how to carve it in that area when that came down? That's just really a bad situation. Cars have reopened and they are coming here along Los Angeles, but you can see right here there's a line of protesters who continue to stand. So drivers are having to navigate very carefully throughout downtown Los Angeles, things that continue to play out on the streets even as drivers are trying to make their way through the city. There are protesters and people on skateboards and scooters, etc., all
when we went there
over
in
in pockets
92
all throughout the city.
during the
As we look
those
this
riots.
way, you could see the remains
As I was coming in, they put us all into the LA Coliseum.
The fire department has now left. They put
our
out those
first
fires.
responsibility
They continue, obviously, to smoke a little bit, but
was to go into
most
Compton
immediate danger is over
and take
with
back
those.
the
But
supermarkets.
we'll see how these
and the
next
shopping
few
centers and that kind of
hours
stuff,
play
yeah.
out, right? Because the sun is
Yeah,
going
they
to
were
go
throwing
down,
stuff
so
at
things
us. They were-
sometimes do
I mean,
tend
for
to
no
escalate
reason. For no
once
reason.
the sun goes down. But the crowds
It's the same here.
much
It's the
lighter than
situation.
they were even
It's
just
sad.
an hour ago. So
Because,
that seems
this
to
whole
lead
thing
to
can
some
be
good news, hopefully,
sorted
for
out
what
pretty
we'll see
quickly.
tonight. Guys,
Pretty
back to you.
easily.
Lori, thank you.
Just come through the
crowds
front
much
door.
lighter. We're seeing that
Yeah.
visibly
We're a
for
country of
ourselves,
laws.
but we are
It's
seeing
not
this
complicated.
disruptive crowd here. They
Yeah,
have
I mean, I've
thrown
been dealing with this,
countless Lime scooters
I worked
down
on-
on
in Southern
CHP
California on the-
vehicles
One's carrying,
that
looks
were
like a
parked
little-
on the 101.
since 1982.
Looks like someone has moved.
And there are
Have they moved
ways
that sign?
of
Yeah, it looks like they
keeping
picked up that they were
across
picking up
the
and
TJ
moving that
border
sign.
every single day.
Okay, it looks
go
like a
to work.
parking sign.
Right.
That is really,
And they, they
cemented
come and
to the
go.
ground.
These
I
guys here,
wonder.
like, look, he's going to
and
drop
if
that
you throw that is
sign
just another
on the
object.
cars.
We don't believe any CHP
If there's an
officers are in their
officer
vehicles,
just
obviously, because
walking
this has
to the
been
car
occurring
and
for
he
several
doesn't
minutes
see
now.
him,
They've thrown several
if
scooters.
that sign
You
hits
can
an
see they're
officer,
throwing
that
what looks like
officer
other
is dead. And
objects
if you're
down on
if
the
you're
vehicles.
supporting this,
There's a bike down there that you can make out.
if you're supporting
and
this,
the windows of these CHP cars just shattered.
And you see that back Tahoe with the 552 on the back.
He's
Looks
got
like
a
the
sign
airbags
there
went
with a
off
pole.
when they
Basically,
it's
dropped
gonna
be a
that
spear.
scooter on there. So, any hope of getting the southbound lanes of the 101
And
back
he's
open
gonna
are now
drop it.
pretty diminished because
Yeah.
even, once they can get in here and probably tow some of these cars or at least move them, they're going to have to come up and clean the freeway. I would imagine they'll want
trying to get a
to come
better
out and make sure
vantage
the structural
point.
integrity of it is okay.
Look at this. What if
And
there's an
a
officer
second ago,
sitting in
John
that
and I were
car?
talking to our photographer in
Right
Stack
north
Out. It looked like
Lawrence.
at least one of them was smoking. I'm glad to see that that's not the situation anymore, but they're still, throwing these rocks off the top of the
And
freeway.
And we're taking a look at, that one person that's picked up that.
this is the council
parking
member that was
sign.
asking for
Now,
Oh, boy.
peaceful protest.
you
This
know,
is
putting
not
it over
a
the
peaceful
overpass
protest. Look at
there,
him.
And you
He's
just
lining up to chuck
hopefully they'll
that
put it
thing
down is what
down
we're
on
hoping
the
here, but they
police
have thrown-
cars.
and
there
it
it
goes.
goes.
It's
Look at
just
that.
The concern here, obviously, aside from the obvious danger of the situation, is the fact that, in these moments we see a lot of cameras
In
and,
real
and
life, if you were to
phones
do
and
that to a
what
law
amounts
enforcement
to
officer on the
a
street,
photo shoot or a
they would
video
have shot
shoot,
you.
right? In so many of these circumstances, it's
And
crazy.
take a look down on the ground there. You can see some of the officers now on the move, the CHP officers now making their way back to their vehicles there. And they are still on alert. You can imagine they want to move these vehicles. Well, we're going to see if they're going to even attempt to move them out because there are so many things still being thrown at the cars. And as you mentioned, Mike, one had its airbags deploy, so that's not,
Yeah,
you're
they're
not
gonna have to
going to be
tow
able to
that.
move that.
And I'm trying to tell, and John in SkyCal, I don't know if you can tell me too, where they're continuing to get these rocks from. I can't tell if they're breaking off parts of the concrete and that's what they're throwing, but there's, I mean, well, there's a firework. But they seem to have kind of a never-ending flow of, John, I'm looking at you on a monitor over here, but they seem to have like a never-ending flow of concrete or rocks that they're able to get and throw down there. It's funny, you see, and I don't know if we can look at the other SkyCal shot really quick, but you've got a line of what I believe to be his National Guard Humvees sitting there, and just steps away, you've got these protesters that are right there, and then you've got these protesters that are throwing this concrete or whatever they're able to get their hands on and throwing it down on top of these CHP cars, and now you've got the CHP officers obviously understanding that if they walk out from underneath of that overpass, they'll most likely be hit with these very large rocks that are being thrown.
Yeah, we hadn't seen them for a while there, but you know that.
Here comes another scooter.
No.
There you go. Another scooter getting thrown just off this overpass down onto the CHP vehicles that were staged there originally because a group of protesters had walked onto the 101 and completely blocked it. CHP was able to, you know, in less than an hour, I would say, push the protesters back, but the southbound lanes of the 101 through downtown have remained shut down. And this is clearly why, because in the last few minutes, we saw things continue to take a turn with this small group of protesters here.
You see really quickly, guys, you see that group leaving. It's because they're shooting less than lethal rounds at the protesters now, hopefully to, you know, push them off of the overpass there. It's hard to tell.
That's a true statement. This country was
freeway, or where are they shooting less than lethal at? Can you tell?
Immigrants.
Yeah, from under the freeway, he's telling me. So
immigrants.
They're shooting it up at the crowd. Obviously, they're not going to get the crowd that's right above them that is causing the most problems throwing.
The difference here is illegal.
Looks like, look,
and
we got one
legal.
officer getting in the car right there trying to
lawbreakers,
trying to move it and get out of the way at least.
Abiders.
Yeah, but you made a
It's
good
that
point,
simple.
Mike. You can see on the left side of your screen
It's not rocket
how
science.
many rocks or
This
it
is
looks like,
illegal.
A lot of them, yeah.
See that guy right there
concrete,
with the mask on?
because they're pretty big.
Yeah.
Pieces of concrete are just
And you see
Look at
people
they're
here
tearing
trying
the
to
signs
rip off
apart.
the
To throw
traffic
them.
signals. And we've already seen one sign get thrown
That
down there,
is
that
illegal.
long parking sign that's sort of nestled in between.
oh yeah, there goes another rock.
Agreed. Legal
Trying to
immigration
watch
is
where they're getting
wrong.
them from. It looks like, I don't know if they've kicked up some of the curb and they're able to make concrete blocks out of it, but
Are they bringing it themselves? We really don't know. Northbound lane still open here, and you can see that the demonstrators are not, you know, even touching the northbound lanes, throwing anything down to those people, thankfully. But our producer told us as we were taking a look, you know, another scooter has now been thrown. You
there
saw
you go, throw.
CHP
There's
just
smoke.
throw, smoke up there to disperse that crowd. As more rocks, that officer just got hit by a rock,
now they threw it back
and
at
they
him.
threw back. Very dangerous situation for that officer there.
Oh, man.
Especially because, you know, they might, these are,
man.
the-
Oh,
that is
no,
a lot.
That is-
no.
Those are a lot of concrete rocks.
Like that's heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, they may seem small potentially on air, like from SkyCal, but no, those are. I mean, they have to be chunks. It
you
looks
can
like they're
make
getting.
them out on the roadway.
Yeah.
I mean, they're huge. You see it, look at it up against the push bars of that,
Right.
Dodge there. You can
Oh,
see how
goodness.
big it is.
And that's even with full tactical gear and everything
Right.
else. I mean, he was getting bombarded there for a second. I mean, my goodness. And more, and they just keep coming down.
Well, now they're throwing it on the other side of
Right,
traffic.
and then there's
That's a
traffic
very
and
dangerous
oh
situation
boy.
for those innocent drivers just making their way through downtown LA.
Now imagine that's your family on the other side of the freeway and they're
It's a
throwing rocks
reminder,
at your
though, for
kids
people who
in the
may have
back
to
seat of
drive in
that
this
car.
area. Obviously not the
Somebody's
people that
gonna
are currently
get
driving through,
really
but,
hurt.
it just
In this whole
stay away from this
situation.
area at this point.
Yeah,
Things
not worth
have escalated. They've de-escalated within a moment's notice. Even though we have seen this group really thin out.
Yeah, yeah.
There are less than half of the amount of people we saw earlier today.
No, and when you're just congregated over top of the overpass there, and everybody else seems just kind of scattered, but it just takes, a small but, for lack of a better word, determined group of people to just decide, yes, we're going to cause as much mayhem as possible. Let's get to Lori Perez in downtown LA. Lori, what are you seeing from your vantage point?
So we are actually staying, thankfully, behind the fence on this overpass, kind of watching what you guys have been watching, but from on the ground here, watching those officers under the overpass just getting pummeled by whatever people can throw over the side. We've seen pieces of concrete, we've seen several scooters, many water bottles, glass, plastic, etc., and they're just kind of trapped underneath there while the crowd above, which is, as you said, not a very significant crowd, just attacks them from above. I would say probably less than a quarter of the people that were here when we first arrived remain, but they seem to be doing a lot of damage. They seem to be confronting these officers. Ooh, something else really big just dropped down on the cars right there. They are confronting the officers in a much more aggressive, much more violent way than we have seen for much of the day. And that's a bad situation, and the officers are responding. They are throwing those smoke bombs up, launching them onto the overpass, trying to disperse the crowd, trying to get those people out of there. It seems to be working to some extent, but there is still a crowd up above and a crowd of people who want to stir up trouble and continue to keep those officers kind of trapped under that overpass. We did just moments ago see two cars drive away quickly, make their way out of there, and then now, something seems to be happening.
Yeah,
so do you see all those people running?
Yeah, Lori, we're seeing a number of people running, and then we saw one of those vehicles just under the overpass fire.
It looked like a
coming
flame,
out from the front.
A paper that they lit up and threw over right on top of a CHP car.
So two things. Last time we saw CHP using smoke bombs, this clearly was tear gas.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that they didn't throw it up at the crowd. They threw it down the freeway so that the wind would pick up the tear gas and blow it up, preventing protesters from throwing back at them.
The immigration
second
problem
thing that I want to point out, and Dean on our social desk.
In fact, I think it turns more people against it.
They're on social media. They're using hammers. So they brought hammers to break up the concrete to then throw it down on the CHP office.
I see.
Okay. Two really significant observations there, Mike, because you can tell the way that that tear gas dispersed the crowd so quickly. Yeah. Earlier we saw CHP using those smoke grenades, and the crowd didn't flinch.
No.
It made it
threw it
hard
back
to
even
see.
at times. Yeah.
Yeah, they were volleying back and forth between CHP and the crowd, but it did not have the effect to really disperse the crowd.
Right.
In this case, quickly you saw them go. And take a look. You're seeing some CHP vehicles
just come on
able
through.
to move out of there, and I think that's what they want to do: get as many of those vehicles out. But that was
what we would do. We'd have 25 cars
the one that had the airbags
with
deployed
4
already.
officers. We have 2 LAPD officers,
And here comes
and of course 2 outside mutual aid
possibly
in
trying
the
to
car.
get to
He's holding
their
his head,
vehicle
so he
there
may be
as
hurt.
quick as possible.
obviously moving with significant pace and by himself too. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he's
There
trying
you
to
go.
get maybe to this vehicle here, and if he's able to get there, he can just drive right on out.
Yeah, this is where having there's more smoke there, and he's still running with a number just behind. This is where having the overpass sort of helps a little bit, is that there is that natural barrier, but in direct line, and we saw this before, even
the
before the
police
cars
cars
started
trying to
getting
light the
hit
cars
with
on
rocks
fire
and
and trying to
scooters
get the cars
and traffic signs where
underneath the bridge.
there was a back and forth.
To finish my thought,
officers and people
yes,
throwing water
when
bottles and other
we would
things.
go in,
Down
This
toward
person's going to grab a piece of concrete
shopping
once
center.
again. It
Big
looks
one,
like
too.
in
This
their
guy here has
hands,
got
right?
a
That's
gasoline
another
of
piece.
some
That's
sort.
Someone
You
else
see
coming
him?
too.
Two more
On the
pieces
top
of
of the
concrete
bridge?
and just going to throw it down.
He's got like a milk carton or something in his hand, like a
And
bottle.
this is what we were talking to Janice Han about.
Yes.
Is that, our local law enforcement are now taking the brunt of these agitators, as we can call these people.
Yes.
And they're the ones having to deal with all of the escalation.
Right.
And we've asked her, how do we de-escalate the situation? And she said, well, we're calling on the federal government to first and
See,
foremost.
he just threw something
pull
down on him.
off
Holy
the
crap.
National
Firework
Guard.
going off, yeah.
Yeah, and then stop the ICE enforcement.
Yeah.
Let the city take a moment to heal itself.
And that's where it seems like the trouble might lie, because despite our repeated questions toward Supervisor Han, Mayor Bass, when you hear, and this is going back to our conversation with the U.S. Attorney Bill Escalating, and then pairing that with the statements from
Do you
President
honestly
Trump, from
believe that,
Secretary
Desert
Nome, and from other Trump
Honestly.
administration officials, it seems like both sides are at an impasse there, where one is calling for
At what
the
point do
retreat
they work together?
and
Yeah.
step back, and the other is determined to, no, we are going to operate as we see fit, because we believe that this is a serious issue that needs taken care of, and that's where we're at right now.
This is, what I promised the voters who
Yeah.
voted me into office.
Well, and the two sides aren't even communicating. I mean, we spoke with Supervisor Han. She herself has not had any communication with the federal government at all. So it's how do you even begin to have those, I don't call them negotiations, but those conversations about how to go about this if you don't even talk to the other side.
Yeah, Mayor Bass telling us she did speak to several people at the White House, but not the president himself. And
Right.
take a look, you can see
They're gonna try
a
to move that one.
CHP officer did get into this one vehicle
go.
that has possibly the most damage, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to try to move it, but it's going to be interesting if this vehicle is even able to get out of here or
Or if it can
move
even
with
see with the
yeah,
airbags.
you
I have
know,
a
Had to try to
question
move the airbag out of the
for
way just to
Desert.
get into the driver's seat.
They
and,
tried.
Why,
but
when you
at
cross
this
into
point,
Tijuana, they have
probably
immigration
unsuccessful.
officers from
Another
Mexico?
officer is going to try there as well.
And you see
as
more-
Are you
people
illegal or legal when you
continue
cross
to,
into
throw
TJ?
these large,
Asking for a
heavy
friend.
concrete rocks down at officers. There you see another one. Another
Yeah.
concrete slab
Oh,
trying to
they're trying to
directly
hit
hit that
the-
officer.
yeah, hit the
Trying
officer.
to directly hit that officer.
Somebody's going to get
You saw how
hurt.
effective that
They're
tear
gonna
gas
get
was,
shot.
though. I mean,
Yeah.
that cleared the crowd
To the
fast.
point where only the at least one person we saw come back had a gas mask of their own to try and just sift through all that gas and then
Right.
throw some more rocks and everything else down below. But that one got really close to hitting the officer who was trying to get in and out of that vehicle.
It is interesting too, because you wonder, CHP certainly would have communication with LAPD. You would think that LAPD would come help them out on top of the bridge, while these officers are clearly in a position of distress here as these people are throwing these rocks and scooters and signs and everything they can at them. So it's interesting that LAPD hasn't come in. Certainly they have their hands full in other parts of downtown, but it is an interesting kind of point here. Also, just I want to make a quick housekeeping note. We are starting to deal with the marine layer here, so we may lose SkyCal. Not terribly soon, I don't think, but it is becoming a bit of an issue up there.
Okay, that's always a good note for our viewers.
You should
as
read
we
it
have been
11
on since
and then go to
4 p.m.
Ellis
now,
Island.
monitoring this situation for you happening in downtown Los Angeles. You could see we are
I've been to
near the
Ellis
101,
Island.
where CHP vehicles have been pelted with
And I've watched
concrete objects, concrete rocks,
poor
several scooters, electric
migrants
scooters,
be murdered.
even a parking sign. Someone was
I've
able
stood
to pick
over
up a
their
parking
dead
sign
bodies.
and throw it over onto that CHP car there.
No,
A
there's
firework.
fireworks going off right there. On that note, really quickly, because we've been talking about the 101 throughout the afternoon.
So we would go
LAPD
in and
Central
secure
Division
the
10 minutes ago saying
shopping
because of
centers,
demonstrators throwing
and then
objects onto the southbound lanes of the 101
National
and
Guard would
damaging
come in
multiple
behind
vehicles,
us
as
and
we've been showing
maintain
you
the
live
security.
here. The 101 southbound
That
is
could
going
be
to remain closed
almost
until further
maybe a
notice.
bomb.
That obviously not a surprise to
Agreed.
us, but given everything that's going on down there, having to eventually move and perhaps tow these cars out of the way, then clean it up. And Mike, you pointed out Caltrans has to, check structural integrity and everything else. It might be a while before
See
that
ya.
opens back up.
Yeah, it would be a significant amount of time. I mean, they like you just mentioned, Gio. They may want Caltrans to come look at the integrity of the roadway, though. It looks like most of the pieces of concrete were coming from obviously from the bridge above. But yeah, I mean, all these cars are going to have to get towed. Then the freeway is going to have to get cleaned up, and none of that is going to happen until things like this stop happening, which is people. I think he's got a leaf blower.
Thank you, T3.
That's an interesting choice, but and look, you just saw
Thank
that
you,
cop. They
Soldier
keep trying to
Pro.
get into that car. And good point. John, our photographer in SkyCal, mentioned that they use the leaf blower to blow away the tear gas. Yeah. So you look at things like this, and you have to say these are professional people.
They're bringing in hammers to break up that concrete.
Yeah.
They have leaf blowers
to push away the tear gas.
To push away the tear gas. Some of them actually have the gas mask.
Right. And that's when you start to say, these are not people here protesting the issue of immigration enforcement. They're here to cause problems and here to cause damage.
They're taking advantage of the situation there. Is this CHP vehicle smoking, or is that another?
I think it's a tear gas canister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see here.
They got an umbrella
Not
up there.
yet.
They're hammering away, and they put that umbrella up so that when the CHP shoots pepper balls at them, it doesn't hit them.
And there's the leaf blower. You see it right over the edge, right next to the exit sign.
Yep.
I mean, it's just wow. I mean, that goes to your point, Leslie, about how this was thought out. You know, to that degree.
They're doing something there
Yeah.
in that little circle.
We are not characterizing the
I hope
entire
it's
group of
not
protesters that started
Molotov
this
cocktails.
morning,
See, they're lighting
that
something.
were
Lighted cardboard.
protesting. Yep, they were protesting the issue of immigration enforcement here in our city. This right here, this is a small group of people who
I
came
hope it's
here
not gasoline.
for what seems
Remember
like
earlier I
violence,
said,
but
watch the guy with
Mike, you're
the
pointing out someone was trying to light that cardboard on
Yeah,
fire.
So if
jug.
you're looking, John's doubling in right next to the guy in the blue.
jug.
They brought some cardboard over, and they were
I
trying
see,
to light it
they're
on
dropping
fire.
the
It looks like,
cardboard
look, he's got like some bush.
They're trying to light fire. So they're
Yeah,
trying to
there you
light
go. There's the lighter.
He's
Car's
trying
on
to light it.
fire.
So they're
Look
going
at
to
that.
light the
guy?
cardboard and then try to throw it on top of the CHP car to get that set on fire. Look at how many phones are out there too. And if for a second they don't think that CHP is going to be scouring social media to charge these people.
Yes, I mean, the FBI has posted
Oh,
the
yeah.
gentleman earlier who was on top of the Waymo that came with a skateboard.
Right.
He was wearing a mask, but they've already found photos
Right.
of these people. And what they're saying is, yeah, we will, if not arrest you today,
Flora, that is a
we will
great
eventually
point.
arrest
Thank
you.
you.
We've seen that happen.
for the super chat.
Yeah, I can't tell
Antifa could
everyone's
be
running. I don't know if the tear gas is getting to them, but
behind this.
Yeah, everyone's
This is definitely organized.
Oh,
These are not
fireworks. And another.
people who
really trying to work
want
on that
legal
cardboard,
citizenship.
it looks like, to catch that on
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
These
They're
are
using
people
the
that are
blower to
stirring the
expand
pot for political purposes. This is
And it
a
just gets to this
political
point where we've got this.
riot
This is not
this
a large
point.
group of people compared to what we were dealing with earlier. But look how much chaos and damage this small
Yeah,
number
good
of people
point.
is able to
And
do.
who do-
here.
oh, and what-
And partially,
we
from
don't
the
even
fact
know
that
who's
they are
in
on
this country.
different levels of where the CHP is. I mean, those officers. It's not like they can just push them out. There's nobody up there to push them out. It's just they just continuously have to take this beating from these people that are up on the bridge.
yeah.
Let's get back to our Lori Perez, who's in downtown LA. She was giving us a look at this from the ground. Lori, it sounds like you moved vantage points. What are you seeing now?
Yeah, we just got a little bit closer to where the action is happening. And as you all have been saying, I mean, it's really remarkable to kind of watch this play out because it is a really small group of people who are causing all of this chaos. Maybe, 20 guys
Thank you, Vet Gross.
over on the
Fantastic
overpass
having
across
you
from
with
us,
me all the
and they are the
time.
ones who
Aaron and I
are
are so grateful for
continuing
you
to
and your
engage
membership of
with
41
the
months.
law enforcement
Thank
that
you,
is
thank you,
huddled
thank you.
under the overpass. They have thrown any number of items, as you guys have been watching and noting, but they are really continuing to wreak a lot of havoc and to cause a lot of trouble here, which is not a good situation. When you see those people running, that's because law enforcement is responding by deploying tear gas, and that's when the crowd really runs and disperses. And we've even felt the effects of that as far away as we are, as the wind has brought it over here. But this group of people, this group of agitators, as you called them, really creating a lot of tension and frustration for also some of the other protesters who are continuing to try and stay on point, at least over where we are. They continue to stand in front of the road, on the road, continuing to chant, continuing to hold up their signs and kind of keep their mission of being out here rather, front of mind instead of some of this other stuff that we're watching play out down below. So again, a lot of pockets of action throughout downtown Los Angeles. Again, Leslie, go ahead.
Sorry, we want to get to Mike. You just noticed they tried to light one of those CHP cars on fire.
Yeah, so CHP, and John, if you can zoom in on that car right there for me. So they had been using that kindling. They put it, they threw it down onto the CHP car, and then they used the cardboard to throw it on top of it. And those CHP units underneath of the bridge had a fire extinguisher, and one of them even pulled out a can of pepper spray and started pepper spraying the fire to put the flames out. So they clearly saw that coming, and were able to use that fire extinguisher to get that out. You see it right on top. John, if you can show us that Tahoe there that was that they tried to light on fire. You see the remnants of the fire extinguisher, the dry chem on top of the car there, and luckily it was not able to catch fire.
Someone else just tried to drop.
Hang on.
One down there. I mean, my goodness, you even just see it, just looking at the
Thanks for being with me tonight, everybody.
Lime scooters and others.
Karen was like, go cover the riots.
With all of these rocks and concrete that were chipped away with hammers is quite the sight to see.
Oh yeah, and it just
thank you, Eagle Stars.
It's relentless almost. I mean, there is. The same thing
Praying
with
for the officers for
vandalism
sure.
for the sake of vandalism.
I'll tell you, it's one of the scariest things
are they
I ever did in my career.
To light these cars on fire, that they're just going to keep at
back
it
in the
until
day.
that happens, or what's
and then what?
The goal, right? I mean, it doesn't seem like there is one, but what is what's the plan here with these guys?
I was in South Central Los Angeles.
Really,
so they were shooting at us. I mean, it was bad.
At one point, they just
and then we went into Koreatown.
Yeah, look at that on the ground.
They had the Korean business owners on the roof, and they were shooting. See, now they're starting to light fires. Whenever fire is involved, there's other problems. Or somebody got hurt. One of the protesters got hurt.
At least one other demonstrator that we saw that was hurt. It looked like the
Thank
other
you,
person
Debbie.
we saw had injuries to their head.
The irony, right? Now they're going to need medical.
Hours ago, maybe an hour ago, we saw that person.
Either an ambulance or the
had
cops.
Injuries to their head.
And somebody's going to have to help them.
Speak with the people that were helping them, including LAPD officers that were also helping them. But you can see it does look like someone's down there as people continue to throw stuff at officers down below on the 101 southbound lanes.
That are still closed, by the way, worth repeating that, and they're going to be closed likely for a long time. You see some more smoke, and there's another round there with more rocks and items being thrown down. And just keep getting after this vehicle, which CHP has tried to move unsuccessfully. I mean, you see the airbag there, whether or not that was the sole reason or one of many reasons,
Allison,
more than likely one of many, as to why you can't get that vehicle out of the way. Not to mention the fact that they were putting themselves
all day
potentially in
long in
harm's
the country.
way by even approaching the vehicle.
They had a protest earlier today. Nobody got hurt.
It is out from underneath
Everybody
the
went home.
overpass, and
These are
close
now
calls with protesters
just agitators that
throwing
want
concrete
to
and other
fight.
items
They could be
directly at
Antifa.
officers, and a couple times narrowly missing their heads in other spots.
Anything goes right now in
And John
terms of
pointing out too, there's a lot bigger crowd.
And there are a
that's
lot of
formed
good
along
people
the
in Los
overpass along the
Angeles
side of
as
the
well.
freeway. I also just have to remark on
like Heather
what
says,
a weird and
these
strange
people
sight it
here
must be
just
for the drivers on the northbound side of the 101
to create
just be, transiting
violent
through here
situation.
and
That's
seeing
it.
all of this chaos.
They're
Like,
waiting
it's just
for the
gotta be
police
such a
car to
surreal feeling
catch
be
on fire.
Just, not involved in
And
this,
then they'll
but
start
right in the middle
cheering.
of it at the same time.
And the contrast that the protesters, they're set on.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. You're so
destroying those
kind.
CHP vehicles, but you get to the northbound lanes completely clear of any of that debris.
And, go ahead, Gio.
No, I was going to say, thankfully, exactly.
And this is a good point. Prime example of how California handles crime.
About some of that
The
debris and other
legislators
items getting
in California
into the northbound
basically,
lanes because,
here's not
They're
that
lighting a
fire.
large,
This is
piece
not
of cardboard on fire. And here's the thing, it has to travel down there, and once it does,
Not
CHP may
Not
try to, once again,
Now they're going to
try to
throw
put this
stuff at
out
the
there.
guys coming
see a
out.
couple feet there in the frame.
Well, Newsom, you just bought a new car.
Yeah,
At
that
the
might just,
state,
there you go,
right there.
the fire extinguisher. And yeah, they're able to put it out rather quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as long as it's just cardboard that keeps going.
See all the
down,
rocks
they're
coming
not
down
gonna
after
get what
that?
They're hoping for.
Look at
Which
that,
is
they
good.
threw
There's another firework that's going
Fireworks at them.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I was going
crazy.
to say to finish the earlier thought about the fact that people coming northbound on the
Well, they
101,
can't get
seeing
to 'em
that,
yet.
especially considering that both the northbound lanes and the southbound lanes were closed just about 3 hours ago or so when we initially jumped
I
on
don't
here.
see that happening
And
unless an
then,
officer,
to see this coming down
or unless they
and
start shooting
notice
at
the
the
chaos that's
cops.
going
And
just
buckle
onto your
up, put your
side must be
seatbelts
quite
on.
stark and even frightening in many
I
cases.
agree with
because
this.
why wouldn't it
California
be?
needs
And I
new
am a little
leadership.
surprised that they haven't closed the northbound side. I mean, I know
This
that they
is
want to make
leadership.
sure, that
That's what-
traffic
this
is
is
getting
exactly
through,
what
but
this is.
I am a little surprised that they, there's another firework on the other side. I am a
People
little
are
surprised they're
allowed to
allowing traffic to get through,
protest.
but on the
That's
same
okay.
token, the protesters seem to be leaving that side alone. You don't see anybody throwing anything at
But
the
people are
passing
not
cars on the
allowed to
northbound side.
riot.
They're just really, really focused on the CHP vehicle.
And this is a small amount of people riding,
And you mentioned
but
the
eventually,
National Guard
when the sun goes down,
just staged
it's gonna get
just right on the other side.
nasty.
Not sure if
Gonna get
these
nasty.
protesters can actually see because they are raised
Right.
above, but hasn't deterred, the situation from unfolding for hours now. At first,
This is
some
CBS,
demonstrators,
KCAL,
several,
Channel 5,
possibly 100, made
LA.
their way on the 101. CHP had to get them back. They used
That's
some of
right.
those projectiles.
That's right,
They
Rosebud.
used
The governor
smoke
allowed it all back then,
canisters
and then
to
people
get them
did
off the
die.
101 freeway. But that has not cleared up the situation on the southbound lanes because now, as we're watching
I will
them,
not disagree with that.
just continue to destroy these CHP vehicles that do remain here.
Yeah.
I know there's 3. Can we make out how many more CHP vehicles are left on the 101?
John, I mean, I see the 3 here, 4. That's an unmarked CHP car right
Okay,
there.
5.
You've got the ones further back that probably aren't in danger at the moment, but they can't get to them because,
Yeah.
as we pointed out, then they would have to
Thank you.
run past these people that are trying to do them harm and throwing rocks and things at them as that happens.
And you can see that was the moment that they tried to light that CHP vehicle. They've done it several times on fire, but that's the moment that they used that pepper spray canister, right?
Right.
Along with a fire extinguisher to put out those flames. So it was quick thinking from CHP to just be on it and be ready.
That's a great
for,
question,
what
Colleen.
these people were doing. But we're watching as yet more of these concrete blocks, concrete rocks continue to get thrown down.
And the thing is, too, where we're focusing on this right now, it doesn't seem, and this is more of a fingers crossed because our attention always seems to be focused primarily on the hottest of spots. But there you go. There's a cone, a traffic cone that was lit on fire. It seemed was just thrown over the overpass down to the CHP vehicle. Then
See, they're just
flame,
determined to
whatever
set that
remnants
car on
of it
fire.
were still on it, just got wiped out once it landed on the ground. But projectiles still being thrown at these vehicles. I was going to say that the primary focus always is on this right now, and over the course of the last few hours has been on a collection of things, whether it was the Waymos burning, whether it was LAPD and the mounted unit pushing forward and dispersing a crowd over by the park and getting rid of these makeshift barricades that were getting put up by protesters. And it doesn't seem like we're hearing of any significant activity, at least one that rises to this particular level that we're focusing in on right now, where it just seems like it's a give and go every half hour to an hour or so where something else picks back up, and then when something else dies down, and then when that finally dies down, something else starts picking back up. And we're reaching the point now over the course of this night where, as the sun starts to set here soon, then we enter that next phase where I think a lot of our ears perk up and a lot of our concern starts to heighten the hair because things get dark, and that's when we start getting worried about any potential extra dangers that are going on.
And really quickly, and we just saw flames there, so John's going to try to reposition SkyCal. We are doing this because of that marine layer.
Wow.
So John is having to get lower to get away from the marine layer there. Our pilot and John doing a great job in SkyCal, but something clearly worked. I didn't catch what they
I
drew.
think the car's on fire now.
Overpass. So they're dropping some
grief.
sort of what would look like to be incendiary.
This
or,
is not a protest.
Flammable liquid.
Come on.
Something, thank you. That they dropped onto the car. So whatever that was, that
Thank
did the
you,
trick.
True.
And we'll see if these fire
Girl.
extinguishers will handle it before
Yes,
it reaches
Antifa,
the oil, the
I
gas,
think,
and
is
the engine
also
inside of that
cooking
CHP
on this
cruiser,
thing.
but these
boy, yeah, there's
protesters
something
don't
Look at
else
the
right
throwing
there.
stuff down at the
Protesters,
cop.
They got it. So now we'll probably watch the CHP car go up in flames. As you guys, I just mentioned, we're dealing with the Marine layer here. And not only are we dealing with the Marine layer, but law enforcement is going to deal with the Marine layer too. And if the Marine layer moves into such an effect that they can't have helicopters in downtown, that's going to be a big hamper to them, because they lose their eye in the sky, which is so crucial in civil unrest situations like this.
Yeah, and truly monitoring what is happening on the ground there. This set of people were trying for several attempts to set this CHP car on fire, and now we've seen it. Those flames actually grow there, but take a look. It looks like maybe CHP was successful in using that fire extinguisher
It looks that way.
able to prevent that from fully catching fire there.
Let's get back to Lori Perez down there on the ground, getting a look at things. Lori, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I can tell you that when those flames did kind of erupt from that car, there was a gasp here from the crowd, and then cheers. I mean, that's the kind of element that we have out
Did we
here
not
at
all
this
just say
point.
they're going to cheer as soon as they light it on
hear
fire?
those really loud explosives going down there. People are launching fireworks down there as well. And there seems to be a response of law enforcement.
Great
headed
question.
this way,
I don't know
as
why
things
either,
really do
Julie.
seem to,
Really.
be kind of taking a little bit of a turn, and not in a good way at this point. The only good thing that I can tell you we are seeing here on the ground is, again, this crowd is just a fraction of what it was when we arrived. I mean, when we first got here, there were thousands of people. Now, you know,
Well,
a couple
remember,
hundred,
they're
which
all
is certainly much more
being told what
manageable,
to do
even
from the
though they
higher
do seem
ups.
to be much more aggressive.
And if the higher ups are political, like the sheriff,
But
remember,
hopefully
that's
law
an elected
enforcement
position.
can try and get
And that's
a
Sheriff
hold of what's
Luna.
happening here, kind of
But
disperse
here, the LAPD chief
tonight. I give him a lot of credit.
is Jim McDowell.
Okay, excuse us there.
He came
We know
from
Lori was
LASD.
saying
He
that
was
there
the
were
sheriff at
several
LASD
CHP
before
officers
Luna.
racing past her in their patrol cars
And
as
so
we continue to see fireworks.
They're making
just get
decisions on
thrown.
what they call a
Even
fusion
more
center,
fireworks,
Yeah,
right? Get
right there in
thrown
LA.
down below on the
And
101,
what that
where
is, it's basically an
just a couple
operation
CHP
center.
vehicles do remain, officers
And
not in them.
you're 100% right.
But there are
They
several
should be
officers
saying,
still
let's
under that
move,
bridge
let's
there.
get this
Yeah,
done.
and sort of peeking out every
I don't know
time.
why
We've
they
had a
don't
couple instances,
just
including
go in
the big one with the fire.
And make
Lori,
it
what
happen
else are you
right
saying?
now, because I think they're
Yeah, so
you
I
know,
just wanted to
walking
show
on
you down
eggshells
Los
with
Angeles
the mayor.
Street. We can now see a large group of police officers. You know what? Let's get past these people here. Woo! You can see a large group of police officers marching this way, perhaps to try and, on the ground at least, push back the few people who are here. This is always when I tend to think it gets a little dicey, right?
I remember
Because it's
when
one
they had
thing,
the riots,
to have some space
you know,
between
even
the
3-4 years
protesters and law
ago in
enforcement.
LA.
It's one thing
It was
when
the
perimeter
mayors,
is
it was the
kind of
city council
spaced out,
members,
but when
and they're
they,
all out front. You know what? Hit
start
them
to
all with
advance,
rubber
start to
bullets.
come closer, especially
Get
on
it
the
all
ground,
over with.
towards the
They'll
crowd.
all go home.
That's when things can kind of get heated.
You know, in
so
Europe,
we'll
they
watch.
got
They
those
seem to have
gigantic
stopped now.
water
They're
cannons.
at the far side of Aliso in Los Angeles. But here they're coming. So actually, we don't want to be in this spot where we are. This is not a good spot for us to be, because if they do start to use any sort of non-lethal weapons, we're right in the line of fire. This is not a good spot for us to be.
Yeah,
So
I
we're
saw
gonna
that, and those
make some
were placed
adjustments
there
here and try
today
and
as
get on the
well
other side of this,
in Los Angeles.
so we don't get hurt ourselves.
Okay, Lori, your safety is top priority
It's gonna get-
here.
it's
Quickly
gonna get
realizing,
interesting
you know,
here in
you
a
don't want to
minute.
be on this side of officers, especially if they have to use those less lethal projectiles, or
Yes.
even we've seen CHP in the last few moments use tear gas. at
Right,
these heights.
and that large response, I mean, that it's certainly, I don't think you could characterize it as anything less than a
destroying
large
the
response,
state.
given
I
how much
agree.
they were stretching from
Politics
one corner of the street
aside,
to the other.
it's
And
his
you'd have to think that at
personality
some
and
point,
leadership.
as more fireworks
He's
go off down
allowing this
here
to
on these
happen.
CHP
The
vehicles,
mayor is
that they're
allowing this
going
to
to make a move
The
toward this
council
particular
members are
group
allowing this to happen. Don't
of
let the
protesters, or rather better
politicians
described as
off the
agitators
hook.
at this point.
These
because of
officers
everything
went
that's
to
been going
work
on.
this morning.
Non-stop
They
sort of
kissed their
barrage
families.
of rocks,
They did
concrete,
not
scooters. I mean,
ask
you just on
to
your
have
screen alone, you
rocks,
could see at least
bottles,
6, if not more,
fire,
scooters
scooters
and a littering of
thrown at
concrete.
them,
And what we
or their
initially
cars
thought
lit on fire.
were
End of
rocks
story.
or anything else, and they were just chipping away at it with hammers from up on the overpass to throw it down. So a lot going on right now as we continue to monitor this. That first CHP vehicle you saw was on fire for a brief moment at least there before crews got a handle on it with the fire extinguisher. There are a collection of CHP officers underneath the overpass that you might not see on your screen, but they are coming out from time to time to make sure that those vehicles don't get engulfed, but also prioritizing their own safety, because there you see another, it looks
Firework.
like, yeah, another
Here's the
firework
irony.
going off.
Newsom's
Every time
gonna
they
buy
stepped out
these
from
cars.
underneath that overpass, they're putting
They're
themselves
state
in harm's
vehicles.
way, potentially as well. We've seen a number of close calls with those officers getting things thrown at them.
Well, and if that firework, I mean, if those fireworks land just the right way underneath one of the cars, that could also set a fire. Okay, you're seeing this move in. This is a little bit further down, and I think this is what our photographer in SkyCal, John, was just looking at too. John, if you could show us, there was a big line of CHP cars you were just looking at, just to the right of your shot there. Okay, so we'll see. Those guys haven't, I mean, there they are starting to move in. So hopefully these guys are coming to push off. And you have sheriff's deputies that have joined too. And that's tan and green uniforms. Those are Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies. So now we're adding more law enforcement agencies to the mix between sheriff, CHP, and of course the LAPD. I believe it was LAPD back where Lori was, and then obviously here it is CHP and sheriff as they continue to try to deal with this situation. I mean, they'll push them from all sides. There's more sheriff's deputies. That's their sheriff's deputies. I believe they're called Special Response Team or something to that effect. But these are specialized deputies. They've got those trucks. They've got those yellow wires that they'll do to create barriers between them and people that they are trying to take into custody.
Yes,
and then we got
this is
smoke
why.
over here. I don't know if that was thrown. Yeah, okay. So CHP. Now we see them marching across the street. John, if you go to the left a bit, they're pushing down the side of the freeway there. And hopefully we'll see them start to come over
Look
to
at the
where,
shield over the horses.
that
Nice.
group on the overpasses, and you see them shooting things off at them. Yeah, we can go back over to where the overpass is, John, and I assume we're going to start to see a clash.
Yeah, because this was a crowd that this was really the crowd that was
And that's tear
throwing
gas.
things and trying to destroy that CHP vehicle relentlessly.
Yeah.
You can see, we see plenty of fireworks being thrown. And
back
then
and
on the other
forth.
way, Mike, you're saying the tear gas also being deployed.
Yeah, and if you watch those CHP officers, those launchers that they have, they're launching. Yeah, it looks like a firework, but I think it's
Okay, so that's coming from
those are tear gas
CHP?
canisters coming from CHP.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
But
So-
being launched by a launcher.
yeah, so they've got quite the distance on those.
Wow, I thought those were fireworks.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you see those sparks, but they're tear gas launchers that have some definite capabilities on them to get make some distance. And you see again, the tear gas has been very effective on the crowd. I mean, you've got a couple of
And
them
there
that have
comes the
those
mounted
masks.
unit.
But yeah, and then that ground shot on the right, you got the mounted unit coming in. But you've got a couple of them have masks. But for the vast majority of it, it is working pretty well every time they put tear gas up there.
Yeah, it'll burn your eyes. It'll make it really hard to breathe. And you just want to get that
And
stuff
those
off
horses.
of your face. Take a look.
love those
Looks
guys.
like the mountain
Oh man,
unit
they're throwing stuff at the horse.
is getting stuff thrown at
Not
them. They
good.
were going to go one direction. Looks like they're going another. Being followed by an army of officers there.
Yeah.
And so we're going to just try to make out what's happening here. This is what
Ding
CHP.
dongs.
These
Yeah,
are
don't
CHP
hurt
officers.
the,
we're
don't
seeing
hurt
right
the
here.
horses.
Yeah, and that's their
Leave
special
our
response
horses
team,
alone, for
that
goodness
is dealing
sake.
with this. The mounted unit was from LAPD. That is LAPD right there.
And now we're seeing some officers actually in these SUVs in the roof, with these.
See the
these
hole in the
launchers.
window on that car? That's
And,
for shooting
that's
stuff.
the first time I've seen it
Yeah.
today.
When you
Really
That's
just
like
a
stepping
tactical
up
team,
everything on every regard, and
SRT,
really getting a good perspective
special
of it from
response
SkyCal
team,
on the left side of
and
your
they
screen
put the,
with the mounted unit and a
their
collection of
barrels through those
officers
holes,
sprinting
and
forward.
they can shoot tear
yeah,
gas or
they're really
whatever they
going to get a
want.
handle on this overpass issue.
Okay,
I think people
there was
will
a
get
situation I
arrested
just saw. There were some
tonight. Yeah,
people
there's
that were
gonna be
trying to
more
get close
arrests
to
coming.
those
And
horses.
see that those got
the
slips on the
officer
side. So these are
letting the
special,
horse,
special
have the
response
horse kind of
teams
just move him out of
coming
the
in.
way.
Yeah.
And then that's going to hurt
Oh yeah, you get
from
nipped by the
hundreds of
horse.
pounds coming at you. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've
So
never
hopefully now that
gotten
they'll push
bumped by
across the
a
overpass here, it'll
very
really
large
give these
horse
guys an
that knows how to
opportunity
do riot
I mean,
control,
you know, they tried to
you
move that
haven't
CHP
lived.
car once. Maybe if they have some peace for a second,
They
they
are.
try to move it again.
Well,
Those
now
horses
that there's
are
not much of
amazing,
actually
though.
really any of a crowd over top that overpass,
You know,
they're really
I
making
wish
an
they
effort
would
to get
bring
rid
the
of everybody
canines
there.
out.
It looks like you might finally have a window
Being
to
a
get
former
those vehicles
dog
out of the
handler, we
way.
had a 30-foot lead that we would use for riot control, and you
Yeah,
just,
Watching this situation
you know, just
unfold, they were able
work the
to
dog
get
back and
that
forth,
crowd
and
moved
they'd
back.
bite
Look
everything
at
in
just,
front of them,
you
but
can see how much graffiti
times
is on
have
the roadway
changed.
Oh
there.
yeah.
As someone is waving an American-Mexican flag.
Yeah, I mean,
still keeping
That
distance.
guy's
the
not
amount
the
of
sharpest
damage
tool in
and
the shed
cleanup
right
that will
now.
have to take place
To be in
after
front of all
all
those
this is
guys,
said and done is
even though he's trying to be
extreme.
patriotic.
From physical damage to the freeways, the patrol cars, the graffiti. I mean, there's graffiti everywhere.
We're going to show you video
Yeah,
here
good
in
point,
just a
Doug,
second
Judge.
of the chaos from earlier when we get
They're
a
gonna
second.
hit
In the
that guy with
meantime,
some rubber
take a look at
bullets.
this live shot as one of those vehicles finally is getting moved, pardon me, from out of the basically line of fire that was right here on the southbound lanes. That's the video we're talking about as officers were making their way and pushing forward, and they're just a back and forth. There's fireworks, gas, it's everything happening at once.
And what we thought were fireworks,
Yeah.
but Mike telling us that that was possibly just tear gas being launched by a launcher. So what we're seeing are those sparks, but all of it coming from the officers' direction into the crowd to get them to disperse, and they have since done that. They've been able to disperse that crowd that was relentlessly destroying these CHP vehicles, trying to light them on fire, almost successfully lighting one on fire before CHP officers had to come in, and they were able to douse it with a fire extinguisher there. But yeah, they were successful in pushing them back. You have LAPD's mountain unit, you have the Sheriff's Department also out there at this point, and then you have CHP Special Response. All three agencies now working together to, get what seems like a small crowd that's left in downtown LA to try to get them to just go home.
That ain't gonna happen.
Okay.
And yeah, see now they're able to take a look at this vehicle and get through the airbag and everything else and find a way to move it out of the situation. But it is certainly the most damaged out of all of them. I mean, this is the one that was caught on fire at least once.
They're trying to push it.
Yeah.
So it's my understanding we have Congressman Jimmy Gomez on the line with us.
Let's hear
Congressman
what
Gomez,
this
can you
says,
hear me?
what this guy says.
Okay,
It's
perfect. And we
everybody's
can
fault.
see you here. Congressman Gomez, how have you made out the current situation happening in downtown LA right now?
I'm gonna get a snack while he's talking.
Well, one of the things is that I think you've seen an escalation over the last several days just because of a lot of the actions I believe that the Trump administration has taken. Everything from just kind of coming in a very militarized way and going after people in sensitive locations. But now, one of the things that we want to see is if you're going to protest, you have to do it peacefully. Nonviolent civil disobedience, if you really want to
Congressman Gomez,
send a message.
I am so sorry to interrupt you here. We're being told that we have an LAPD news conference getting ready to start in just a second. We have to go to that, but we'd love to keep you on the line or at least circle back to this conversation because we do have a number of questions we want to ask you and get your perspective on as the night continues.
Okay.
It's gonna be Jim McDonald. There he
Let's
is.
get to Chief McDonald there.
Very, very busy
who
time.
is
Thank you all
speaking.
for coming here tonight and allowing us the opportunity to be able to brief the public a little bit about what's going on and what we've been doing and ask truly.
He's originally
ask
from
for
Boston.
peace throughout our city. I'm joined here by Gerald Woodyard, Deputy Chief from Operations West Bureau, Herman Hurtado Commander from Professional Standards Bureau, and from Operations Central Bureau, Raul Jovel, who's also the Incident Commander for Central Bureau and for this incident. So I want to just take an opportunity to speak directly to the people of Los Angeles, clarify LAPD's roles in the events that have been playing out over these past couple of days. This includes our response to protests, our public safety responsibilities, and recent claims that you've seen made by some federal officials. Today I met with Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, U.S. Attorney General of the Central District of California, Bill Aselli, and ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons. Let me begin by reaffirming a core principle. The LAPD supports and protects the First Amendment right to free speech. In recent days, many protests across the city have been peaceful, and we thank the community for expressing their views and their frustration in a responsible manner. However, when peaceful demonstrations devolve into acts of vandalism or violence, especially violence directed at innocent people, law enforcement officers, and others, we must respond firmly. An act of violence, whether toward officers, demonstrators, or the public, will be met with swift and lawful action. Our goal is to maintain order without escalating conflict and to protect everybody's right to safety. Recent public statements have misrepresented LAPD's action from an incident the other night. Specifically, there was a claim that LAPD delayed responding to a federal officer's request for assistance by more than 2 hours. When we heard that, I think anybody who's a police officer couldn't believe it, and certainly anyone with LAPD couldn't imagine how that would happen. Well, it didn't happen, and I just want to go into that just a little bit. LAPD was not given advance notice that the federal operations would occur in that area. As a result, we were not pre-positioned to respond immediately to unrest related to those actions. Once the call for assistance came in, LAPD responded within 38 minutes. And that sounds like a long time, but I'll tell you why that is. The response was impacted by traffic, crowd density in the area with unrest occurring, hazardous conditions caused by tear gas that was previously deployed by federal agents at that location. Many of our officers, because it was put together in a mobile field force configuration without advance notice, were not equipped with gas masks. But despite these challenges, we moved in quickly and as safely as possible. At no point did LAPD ignore or intentionally delay any request for help. I also want to be unequivocally clear. The Los Angeles Police Department does not participate in or coordinate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
That's why they weren't told.
Immigration enforcement. We've said this over and over again, and I can't stress it enough.
He complains they weren't told,
in our community,
and then he
who
just
have high
says,
levels of anxiety
we don't
about this
participate.
issue, that we want everybody
So
to
the Fed
believe
said,
and
fine,
be able to call
we'll go
the
do it
LAPD
ourselves.
in time of need if they've been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We need that. Otherwise, the system does not work. That has been our policy and remains our policy, and it went into effect in 1979. So 46 years ago, that's been the way we do business.
That's not been
On
the
the
way
other
they
hand,
do
however,
business.
when a law enforcement agency,
That's
any
why you had a
agency
checkpoint in
requests
San
emergency
Clemente.
assistance to protect lives, we are obligated to respond, and we do. Public safety is our duty, and we will
Politicians.
answer every legitimate call
It's
for
disgusting.
help from anyone. We recognize that immigration enforcement operations can cause a deep fear and anxiety, particularly in immigrant communities. That's why we're committed to transparency,
Wow.
accountability, and treating every Angelino with respect, regardless of their immigration status. Our job is not to divide communities or politicize law enforcement. Our job is simply to keep everyone safe. I want to express my sincere appreciation to all of our officers and partner agencies for their dedication and professionalism during these very challenging times. Their commitment to upholding the law, even in the face of hostility, is a reflection of the values that we stand for. We're working together to keep everyone safe, our officers and the public alike, and this remains our top priority. We'll continue to support peaceful protests and enforce the law when criminal acts occur. The LAPD remains focused on its core mission.
And their
Protect
city will
lives,
burn.
Safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity. Let me open it up now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify.
Chief, the governor made a very strong statement that he didn't believe the Trump administration needed to activate those National Guard troops to take control of those.
Wow. They're throwing fireworks at the horses, and now they're taking care
I
of
don't
business.
know what basis they used to make that decision, but if that was based on our what I delineated here about the perceived lack of response to a help call by an outside agency, That did not happen. We did respond with mobile field force configuration. And just to explain that, a mobile field force is a configuration of people or officers within the organization
did.
that we bring in from around the city. We declare a tactical alert so we can break them away from their primary duties of answering radio calls to be able to come in, form up. They're trained in this.
I even know this
tactics
guy. I've known him
into
for years.
a
He's driving me
configuration
crazy
of,
right now.
4 squads or a platoon that are led by a mobile field force leader. They then go 4 deep in the car.
He's
and they
selling
drive
his soul
into the impacted area, and that
about
way
law
they can
enforcement
safely
around
go
this country.
in a large group of officers and able to handle whatever they come across. If we were to send in a single unit or a couple of units into a riotous scene, certainly they'd be surrounded and the outcome would probably not be good. And so this is a configuration that has worked for us, developed here, worked for us for many years, but it doesn't happen instantaneously. So we have to call in units. We have to meet at a certain location. They get the information they need to operate in the environment, and then they go and they take care of business. And so that takes a little bit of time for us to be able to get in there in about 35 minutes is pretty much textbook. So while we'd love to be able to say we can get there in seconds or minutes, in the reality of a situation of civil unrest, we got to do it right. We got to do it safely for everybody involved.
Hold on. So go one at a time, please, and let's identify name and outlet.
Victor with Univision Chief. We have seen 2 kinds of groups, at least from Friday, Saturday, and today that have been working. The community that is enraged and they're not happy with the actions of ICE, and then the community that loots and attacks and destroys our city. What would be your direct message to both groups?
Yeah, to the people who are not happy with the fact that ICE is in the community doing what ICE does, you know, I respect ICE for being a fellow law enforcement agency. They have their mission. They have their what they have to do. We don't engage in that activity, but again, we can't preclude them from doing that. They have every right to do that. I ask people in the community to trust the LAPD, that we're not there for that purpose, and that if they have something they need us to be able to address, we're there for them.
Yeah.
As far as the big
You're not there
picture
for the
of
community,
what
you're
I
there
recommend
to
they do or not do,
enforce
that's
the
something
law.
it's a federal issue, and the federal authorities
You refuse to force the
right
law,
to be
your
able to
city
do what they're
burns.
doing. As
It's
far
that
as,
simple, and he's
people
responsible.
worried about the violence
Him
that
and the
we're seeing,
mayor,
this
the
violence that I've
governor,
seen is disgusting.
all the
It's
politicians are
escalated now,
responsible
since the
for these
beginning
people
of,
being
this
out on the
incident.
street.
What we saw the first night
That's
was,
it, period.
was bad. What we've seen subsequent to
It's
that
not
is
complicated.
getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that. Pass
And
it
he's
around,
okay with
throw
this
it
by
officers,
talking
and
about
throw
it,
cars and throw it
but
other people.
he won't
We've
help
seen people with
enforce the
hammers,
law.
and you've broadcasted.
That
breaking
answers
the
why
bars
these guys
behind the
aren't
federal
moving.
building and taking the
Right here.
rocks, if you will, or pieces of concrete.
He's a puppet.
And throwing them at officers. We've had liquid of who knows what description thrown at officers. There's no limit to what they're doing to our officers.
Good
And
point,
again, as I
Emily.
mentioned in my statement, I can't thank our folks enough and our partner agency police officials for going out there and taking care of the community and trying to be able to put themselves between the threat and the overall community. And they do this night in and night out. And in these past couple of nights, we've seen it at a level that I think disgusts every good person. Thank you, sir.
You just described some pretty violent and chaotic situations. What is your position on the National Guard being deployed? Do we need them here?
The last time I checked,
Well,
this
you know,
was the
it's
same
an
mayor that
interesting
burnt down
question, because I
Malibu,
would've
wasn't it?
said that, you know, we could handle this. I believe that
Now they're getting a
we would have
double
gone through
dose.
a number of steps before we'd have deployed the National Guard or requested deployment of the National Guard. We would normally go to 50% deployment to handle radio calls and do the business of policing, and everybody else would be focused on the initial problem. Beyond that, then we would request through the sheriff mutual aid, and that would bring in members of the 44 other police departments
they are
in
not.
LA County, as well as the sheriff's office. And so that
They're
didn't
not.
occur in this case because it wasn't done through the sheriff or through the up through the normal chain. It was done from the top down, from the president directing that happened, and then the National Guard was federalized. So they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard. Do we need them? Well, looking at tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. I think before I could answer that, I'd have to know more about what their capabilities are, what their role is intended to be able to make that determination. But we have great cops in Southern California here that work together all the time. So we have tremendous capability here. To say that we would go to that right away, I'd say we wouldn't have been there yet. Looking at the violence tonight, I think we got to make a reassessment.
Laurel, how has your department interacted with the National Guard, if at all, since they've been here?
I'd say very little, other than we had a conference call this afternoon. There aren't a whole lot of soldiers in place at this time. They're still incoming. But the people who are here, they're tremendous Americans here trying to do, they provide their service, doing the task that they're charged with. Our relationship has been tremendous overall with the National Guard. We worked right alongside them for 5 months during the Palisades fire. They were there every day in the beginning in large numbers, and then that narrowed down before they demobilized. But the relationship is overall tremendous. We're very, very good partners with them, and I hope they feel the same about us.
And when you look at the demonstrators who are people from the community who are upset about, the immigration raids, families being broken up, deportations happening, do you feel any sense of kinship with them, or about this situation, or do you see that there is need for more law enforcement and for
You people, Californians, you folks need to do something with your politicians.
I think, the federal agents
They're
are
not only
enforcing
destroying
federal
your
immigration
state.
law, which is their right, and anybody can have their personal opinion on to what
This
level
is
that
just
should be,
like
who should they focus
dominoes.
on, those kind of things. I won't take a position on that because really that's not our focus, not our job. But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their feelings about the immigration enforcement issue. These are people who are all hooded up. They've got a hoodie on. They've got face masks on. They're people who do this all the time, get away with whatever they can, go out there, from
Because
one,
your DA
civil
doesn't
unrest
prosecute
situation to
them.
another, using the same or similar tactics frequently, and they are connected. Some would call them anarchists or by any other variety of names, but they're people that we run across routinely city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc.
Chief, let's go next to Telemundo over here.
Okay.
Soy Navarro from Telemundo 52. Do you think that the presence of National Guard increased the level to this kind of situation? I mean, you said that it's disgusting. Do you think that if you control it without them, it could be a different situation?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question. What was the catalyst for us seeing the second and third day of this becoming increasingly more violent? To be able to say it's because of the National Guard, I can't, because there aren't enough on the ground at this point to make a difference. I've seen civil unrest a number of times before, and generally the second and third days are more violent than the initial phase. And so this is not much different from that pattern. But certainly, I think there's a number of things that cause people to come out. Much of it is they watch this and see it on TV, social media, whatever social media outlets they follow, or asking them or telling them to come down and be part of this, and they do that. And they come out here, and many come out and just want to see what's going on. They're out there with their cameras, but they're putting themselves in harm's way and potentially setting themselves up for a criminal future. When you look at some of the things that are happening here, somebody could easily be killed. And if you're part of that, then you're going to be facing those charges as well. I talked to the DA just a couple of minutes ago, and the DA will file felony charges on individuals where it's appropriate, but won't be shy about doing that where it is appropriate, and also the potential for federal charges given the type of environment we're in, and the federal authorities don't play. And so as we move forward, I think people will be surprised in some cases for what happens to their future.
All right, let's go 2 more questions. Anybody that hasn't asked already, go ahead. Thank you.
Given the amount of officers that are here in downtown LA, how does that affect response time to other parts of the city and the safety of people that are not downtown?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. A great question. It was, how does the deployment of so many officers downtown or in any one part of the city affect our ability to provide
Thank you for
police
being with
services
us.
citywide?
37
It greatly
months.
impacts our ability because it
Thank
pulls
you.
officers who would normally deployed in communities around the city of Los Angeles into one area in order to be able to address the threat that we're facing. And so other areas, when we go on tactical alert, that means we only handle radio calls of significant importance, meaning a violent crime in progress, calls that have to be answered right away. So the other calls get put on a queue and may not get handled for some time to come, and they're important to everyone who is a victim of any kind of a crime. And so when we go to tactical alert, we don't do it lightly, but in this case we did it very quickly because we needed additional resources right away to be able to help quell the violence. And that situation, as you can see tonight, has only gotten worse.
He wants it worse. He could fix this right now.
For the incident that started this thing. And you said, I believe that you spoke with the ICE director as well as other city officials today. Is there any effort being made for ICE to share?
Look at this. They're putting barricades up across the
Yeah,
street.
that's something that we did talk about, and there's no resolution to that. And the problem is that we are guided and bound by the California Values Act, which means that we can't participate in any way in civil immigration enforcement.
That's
So
a bunch
the
of
federal
crap.
partners have been reticent to provide
We used to
information
turn
us,
people over all the
before something
time.
happens,
In fact, let
because
me
of that
find a
reason.
picture. I'll
Part
pull
of that
one
is they
out.
want to be respectful of,
Just a minute.
of the rules that we have to live by. But it also, on a normal situation, not that big a deal. But in a situation like we saw here in the past couple of days, it turns out to be a very big deal. So we're going to continue to work with the partners that I
They're
mentioned
not bound by
and the others
anything.
as we go forward.
They're bound to
try and be
enforce
able
the
to make
law.
things as safe for everybody as we can.
All right, Spectrum.
Chief, how many arrests so far?
You have that?
Yes, Captain Raul Javel, Operations Central Bureau, Incident Commander. At least, this is very fluid and preliminary, at least 10 people arrested so far. There's arrests being made as we speak. About 3 officers injured. Unfortunately, very fortunate on very minor injuries, or I wouldn't say not minor, but they're not significant enough to be transported to a local hospital. They were treated at the scene. But we're making more arrests as we speak, and we're trying to get into that posture where we're able to make arrests. Right now, really, our officers are really under attack. If you can see when the chief was talking about, we're trying to, first of all, ensure that our officers are safe and the public is safe. And then we'll move into, if we can arrest, we'll arrest, and then obviously protect the property and our vehicles and other things like that. But as of now, 10 arrests.
And if I could just jump on, and then 29 last night as well. And so as we move forward, we will step up our arrest posture in order to hold people accountable and do what we can to stop this violence.
We're going to go 2 more questions.
Really quick, yeah, she asked the question I had. How long can we expect for this situation to happen?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How long do you think this situation is going to continue?
Yeah, for me, again, that would be speculative to say how long that the members of ICE will be in town doing the enforcement actions they're doing. But by calling out the National Guard, oftentimes their deployment periods are in 30-day periods. And so to me, it's going to be an extended period of time. I don't know how long that'll be. We're gearing up for that to be able.
Here's a photograph, 1983. That's me right here on the right. These are all immigrants found in this van. And guess what? We turned them all over to the Border Patrol.
Size department to begin with, that's a big stress on our deployment, but more so on our people and their families. So as we move forward, we'll do everything we can to focus on employee wellness.
So what he just said is not
whatever
true.
Services we can to address the needs of our
They could do it if they wanted to. They just don't want to.
One more back there because he hasn't asked yet. And so, Carmen, go ahead, and then one more, and then we're going to call it.
So, just
two questions. One, is there a chance of instituting a curfew? And two, will you be going back and re-looking at any of these incidents that maybe there wasn't an opportunity to?
That's why they have a checkpoint between Oceanside, California, and San Clemente.
No, thank you for the question. I spoke with the sheriff
They stop them
today, and
there.
we discussed the
Orange
possibility
County brings them
of,
south.
implementing
San
a
Diego
curfew.
County brings them north.
We don't
drops
rush
them
into
off.
doing that, but if we need to do that, I'll go back with the sheriff.
They
and,
broke the law.
And we'll look
Goodbye.
at the options as far as that goes. And as far
Not
as,
complicated.
give me the second part of the question again.
For some of these incidents we watch unfold, a lot of people
Oh,
watch
I got you.
things just unfold in real time.
Yeah.
Thinking, are any of these people going to be
92.
for this,
Yeah.
or the cars on fire and things like that? Is there a chance of going back?
Absolutely. When you look at the numbers of arrests we've made, pale in comparison to what will be made. There are video accounts of what happened everywhere on social media, on individuals, cameras, iPhones. We will go after that very aggressively. Go after the all available video, analyze that video, and hold whoever we can accountable for the variety of different types of crimes that have been committed. And that's something we'll do with a number of different partners with levels of expertise.
Receipts,
that may be
Danny.
beyond what we have.
Receipts.
No, thank you for that. Do you have the specifics? Yeah.
So yesterday, the 29 folks were for failure to disperse. They were all arrested today. So today, so far, this is very preliminary because there's so much stuff going on. The stuff that we know is one person was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at an officer, a significant incident, and then another individual for ramming a motorcycle into one of our line where the officers were and injured one of the officers. Everything else is still very fluid, and I won't have that for a while. So CHP has made at least 17 arrests that I'm aware of in the freeway.
All right, thank you, everyone. Commander Hurtado will.
CHP's made more arrests than the LAPD. Go figure.
Okay, you just heard from LAPD Chief Jim McDonald, along with several other superiors from LAPD, telling us they've made a significant amount of arrests, 10 arrests today, 29 arrests last night. CHP made 17 arrests on the 101 freeway today when some of the demonstrators got on the freeway, shut it down. We know 3 officers have been injured.
Great question.
Fortunately, just minor
This is not a
injuries
protest.
after at least one incident of a motorcycle ramming
This
into
is
an
a
officer,
riot
and then someone else threw
or
a Molotov
something. I don't know what to call
at
it,
an
but
officer.
insurrection.
The
I don't
chief
know.
called the violence
But
happening
this is not a protest.
disgusting, and that he believes it feels like
You don't
it
take
has
over the
escalated
streets.
in the last few days.
And just in the last few
In
minutes,
the United
as you're
States
seeing
of
a live from
America,
SkyCal right now, you've noticed a
light
group
something
of
on fire in the middle
protesters
of it.
and people out there
And then
starting
say,
a fire that you see.
we
in
have
the
a
middle
First
of the
Amendment
screen.
right.
And of course,
That's not covered
another
under
layer
the,
of,
I mean, I don't know.
concern of danger, not to
Maybe
mention
I'm
traffic all
missing
the way
something,
around. But we do know that
That's
we
a
have
danger
on the
to
line
the
Congresswoman
public.
Norma Torres. Can you hear us? I want to make sure that we can hear and see you correctly.
Look at that, where they threw that at the horse.
Okay, we're going to work on getting Congresswoman Norma Torres up here. But Mike, in the meantime, you've been monitoring this situation to the left.
Yeah, I don't want to hear another politician. I don't know about you guys. You guys want to hear another politician?
That have
I don't. I'm going to
torched
go over
cars,
here.
thrown rocks, in some cases directly aiming at officers, trying to light police vehicles on fire. We've watched it all live in just the past few hours. And now we see another fire. We don't know exactly, I was about to say, don't know what intersection this is, but there we go, West 1st and North Spring Street. Try and get a location on this. So it's in the downtown LA area where we're looking right now. So this is in the same vicinity, roughly, that we've been following for much of the day. Just did a quick check of where Spring and First is. The LAPD chief saying that they are going to make quite a few more arrests compared to the phrase he used was, the amount of arrests that have been made so far will pale in comparison to the amount of arrests that will eventually happen. We've got two different vantage points of this scene, by the way. Let's pull up the audio on it. Let's see if we can hear a little bit. Chief McDonnell saying the LAPD cannot participate in immigration enforcement, alluding to the fact that many of these protesters are taking to the streets because of ICE raids. Of course, local police are not the ones carrying out immigration enforcement operations. The chief discussing not only the violence that's been seen on the streets, but also, as we hear, perhaps
That's
a
LA
firework.
Sheriff right there on the left.
The chief also addressing
you can see tan and green.
the type of toll that
LASD, Los Angeles Sheriff's
situations,
Department.
the strain that it puts on the resources of the police department at large. LA, as we know, is the second largest metro in the country. LA City proper, he alluded to the fact that when officers are getting pulled from other areas citywide to these protests, that means that the officers that are in other parts of the city can only handle radio calls of critical importance. Said 10 people arrested today. 29 arrested last night. More arrests being made as they speak is the way they phrased it. So we can expect the number of arrests to go up. Authorities saying they don't know how long ICE will be in town. They presume the National Guard will likely be in town for at least 30 days. He did note that 3 officers have been injured, thankfully minor injuries, none of them being hospitalized.
Check it 1, 2, 3, check it, check.
There's been no curfew implemented for now, but the chief saying that he's been in touch with the sheriff, and if they have to, that is something they will consider. But for now, no curfew in effect.
Good grief.
For LA City or LA County. 8:35 Pacific time. As we continue to watch much of what we've been watching for the entire day. These images, a little tougher to see at sundown, but it appears a group of protesters marching along Spring Street there, possibly.
So here's a quick picture of my partner and I. That's me on the right in Compton. When during the LA riots, 92, look at all the buildings burnt down behind us. They were shooting at us. And this is one of the 2 guys we took down. Welcome to the jungle.
Ground are capturing. Let's dip back in to our partners at Fox 11 Los Angeles. KTTV has been on the ground. Matt Seedorf, specifically, was in the middle of it all by the 101 freeway there. Matt even catching some of the tear gas that was sifting through the air. Fox 11 is on with their evening news right now. Let's dip into their feed. Let's listen into a little bit of their coverage. This is live.
Nope.
Quite sure if Bill addressed that
So exactly then what you're claiming then is that that 200 National Guard, or if it goes up to 2,000, are going to be out walking the streets in Los Angeles?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. He says he's calling up 2,000 National Guard and then federalize them.
Okay.
Correct? We agree with that.
That's correct.
That was his initial statement. But he also went on to suggest that part of the reason was because Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass were not doing enough to keep the city in a state of status quo or peace and not erupt into something. And they basically, both of them suggested that doing that was more inflammatory than it was in any way helpful.
frankly, the inflammatory part comes from the local politicos here, who come out and basically apologize for some of the behavior of these people, justifying it because Trump is
But I
doing
agree with
something
the
they
guy.
don't like.
Well, I don't know that they're justified. They're calling
In
for the
LA
arrest of
right now, it's
anyone
8:38
that was
p.m.
destructive or damaging or hurtful in any way. Hurtful meaning injuring a police officer. So I don't think that's the case. What they are saying, though, is the mayor said to us last night that when you go into a company and just round people up without giving them an opportunity to prove that they have citizenship or they have documentation that allows them to stay there. She
the
was
way
in
those
total
things happen
disbelief that it could be
they
that
just
all
don't go
those
in and
people,
round people up.
dozens of people, fell into that category of the original sentiment that came out of the Trump administration,
rounding up
which was
American
we are going to
citizens.
find violent criminals.
I mean, this rhetoric has got to stop.
Those are
Look what's
very
happening.
emotional and
Look at the
sad
streets.
accusations that are made, but none of them.
I mean, this is
You had a report by
crazy.
by a state senator in Pasadena
This is crazy.
today that the ICE who were staying in a hotel.
I don't know if
guests,
people want this,
rounded up employees and asked them
but
for their ID.
you know what?
She
Here,
didn't suggest
there's a
rounded
real
up.
simple
She did not
process.
suggest rounded up. No, she didn't say
There
that.
are people that have come
senator
to this
reported
country,
that based
all
on secondhand
immigrants are wanted,
information, and
all
then your
immigrants
reporter
invited.
repeated it and asked another person what
But
their
this
opinion was of it. And
is
she never
displaying
once
that
went into
we
the hotel and said, "Hey, did any of
are
your
not a
employees
country
get
of
stopped by the
laws."
ICE agents who were guests here?" She could have done that.
And
I'll bet
you know what?
the
We can
answer is
say whatever
no.
we
Well,
want
she's
about
not
the
here to defend
politicians,
herself. We don't know
Karen
for
or
sure
whoever.
what Gina
It
Silva, who's an
doesn't
excellent
change the reality.
journalist,
I know
had
Gina
done
Silva. She is an excellent
in the
Are we a
course of her
country
job
of
putting
laws
together
or
a
not?
story for
That's
our
the
newscast
question.
earlier today. Captain Paul Vernon,
And
thank
if
you
you-
so much
if
for
we are,
your opinion and your sentiments in
then
this
guess
regard. We
what?
really appreciate the fact that you took the
We-
time to talk with us.
Here's a simple analogy.
All right, you're looking
There
live now
is a
here.
yellow
It is
line
after
in the
8:30
middle of
p.m.
a
on a
road.
Sunday night in Los Angeles, California. You are looking at downtown
Why is that
LA.
line there?
A crowd there on the move. These are continuing
Because
crowds from the protests that have been happening
you
all day, 3 days straight here.
don't understand
Just a small
that line
group
was
here. We do
created
note law enforcement
by
from the
people
LAPD
in the
to the Sheriff's
legislation,
Department has
in
been
the
down there
legislative
on the ground.
branch.
Not sure exactly why
They
they're
argued for
continuing to walk.
hours
I can only guess that law enforcement
over
continues
why it should
to
be there or shouldn't
move
be
them
there.
along, push them along again.
And then they
we saw
finally
all
came to
day
an
where they
agreement.
basically took over
And that
the
agreement
101
was,
freeway in one direction and damaged at least one CHP car. Several were there stuck
we're gonna
on the
put a yellow
freeway
line.
until the crowd
Why
could be
are we gonna
dispersed.
put a yellow
LAPD
line?
moved in quite strongly this evening.
prevent
And
two
now you have
cars
some stragglers, so to
colliding.
speak, still there
And then
in the
we know
streets of
who
downtown
crossed
LA
the yellow
and
line.
clearly they're on the move.
All right, Matthew Seedorf
Are
is
we
on
really
the ground for us in the
at
downtown Los Angeles
a
area.
place
Matthew,
where
you
we
experienced some
feel
tear gas. What are you seeing and
that
experiencing now?
we want the yellow line
right now we're outside of City Hall.
eliminated?
There's been this ongoing standoff taking place with
Do we
protesters
feel that in this
and
country?
law enforcement. This is actually
Because
the LA
I
County
don't
Sheriff's
feel that.
Department here. We're seeing someone try to get into this barricade right now. You
I
can see
don't
him
feel
being
that.
met with sheriff's deputies. He's trying to explain
my day,
I'm trying to go this way,
we would
but
have
right now
chapped
they're
this
not letting
guy
anyone through here. Looks like he's getting
quickly.
hit with maybe some pepper pellets as he's turning around and walking away. If you want to pan down the street, they've actually pushed, there were probably a couple hundred protesters here just a little while ago. They've pushed them beyond City Hall. Something is on fire in the middle of the roadway, and the protesters kind of got pushed that direction just a little while ago. We saw that police firing those non-lethals, and protesters just retreating that way within the last 20 minutes or so. Elliot, I don't know if we can try to set the scene here, but we believe that it's possible. These protesters were trying to take over this part right outside of City Hall. They even have some words up on top of City Hall that they're throwing up there right now. But pan this direction, you can see they had this own, they were trying to make their own barricade with these benches in the middle of the street, blocking from coming in to where City Hall is. City Hall, and then sounds like we're hearing these non-lethals. This is what was happening. So this is kind of what they were firing. Law enforcement was firing at those protesters to get them out of here. You can see what these non-lethals look like. We've seen some people take some hits while we were over on the freeway over that direction. And right now it looks like is something, you can see the fire. Let's see if we can zoom in and see what we're looking at here. Yeah, you can see lots of protesters in the street, and it looks like they're
and Matthew,
yeah, scooters, and you can see the fire.
Matthew, farther down that street, there seems to be a greater collection of people. So past the fire, there seems to be a greater collection of people. And, you know, I'm just wondering if they are just hanging around, if they're waiting for police to approach them, or if they're just standing by.
Yeah, we believe that is the
If
group
you
that was
haven't
outside of
subscribed
City
to
Hall.
my
So they've
channel,
been
would you
pushed now
please
about,
hit
what
the
is that, 2 or 3
subscribe button
blocks from where
tonight?
we are. They actually had several cars, it looks like their own personal vehicles, kind of where that fire was, and some barricade fencing that was there. And then they've retreated now a couple blocks further into the city. There's separate groups right now kind of protesting that we're seeing. There's that one group by the freeway. There's this other one that's kind of going right through downtown, moving from City Hall.
And Matthew, we should point out that you are standing behind a number of sheriff's deputies. So the LASD has come in now into the city of Los Angeles to help with the policing with LAPD. They also, I believe, brought those or did the wire barricades there, that at least the beginnings of it, although right now there's only one. Perhaps the protesters have moved them. At one point,
This is where the questions about tactics that we first raised more than 4 hours ago really come into play, because as Lori mentioned, you start pushing, law enforcement has already been pushing folks back into Chinatown and away from downtown LA, really establishing like you were not getting toward the federal building or even back on the overpass.
Hey everybody, I'm John. I get asked a lot of questions about the stock market. I've been doing this for a long time. I did my first trade in high school, and that was like
Take a look at the video there of the fire in the middle of, that was First and Spring, correct?
Yeah, that's First and Spring, and that is live. So we've got 2 helicopters up right now. The one on the right, that's at First and Spring. The one on the left was a little bit further down, and I'm trying to figure out what that smoke was, if somebody set off a smoke canister or what exactly happened. But to your point, Gio, oh, it's LAPD, they're there. To your point, Gio, though, I mean, at this point, things are going to start to just kind of splinter off. So if you
should have been
these
around in the
concentrated groups,
60s.
which we don't really have right now. I mean, there are certainly some
They
that
were
are right
shooting
around this
college
fire that we're looking
students
at,
on
but,
campus.
you know, and then they
Go
can
look up
certainly
Ohio
move in
State.
and make those arrests there. But
The National
they're gonna
Guard
hope
shot
to get
them.
to a point where there's so few people and people have splintered so much that hopefully they'll just kind of dissipate and be done and kind of move along here. That may happen, it may not. They may reorganize. I mean, you know, Friday night we were pretty done with this, and then all of a sudden there was a huge group that, you know, reformed near where some federal agents were staging. So, you know, it'll see how the night plays out. But you know, LAPD is probably in a situation where they're more comfortable with as we look at this group right here. This is definitely
you,
the
JG.
largest concentrated
Welcome.
group that we're seeing. And John,
Welcome,
can you tell me
Pam.
where this is? So Alameda and 8th is where they're at. And they're really, I mean, if you look at the totality of the group, it's really not that much compared to what we saw earlier. So, and there's not even a law enforcement presence here. So it really kind of depends on what this group wants to do. If they're going to start creating problems, Maine and Alameda, thanks, John. If they want to start creating problems here, you know, certainly LAPD will come in and try to push them along. You know, LAPD's goal
There you
here is
go.
not to do mass arrests.
know,
They are
Kent
to
State.
get them out of the area and move them out. But it's all going to depend on how those protesters want to act. And here we are. Look, Gio, we're pushing trash bins out
Yeah,
to the
I mean,
street,
there was
dumpsters out to the
riots
street,
every single night.
and trying to create those makeshift barriers that they were earlier. So,
Yeah, when we saw
In
it
the
right
same
by the park,
cities.
and then those got dispersed pretty quickly as well, because it's certainly now a numbers game in favor of LAPD, of CHP, of all law enforcement that have been
Exactly. I
deployed
mean,
across
tonight's
the
a
area.
cupcake.
In a moment, we're
This is
gonna
a
circle
cupcake
back
compared to
our Lauren
what was
Posen, who's
happening
also
when
been,
we were younger.
in downtown LA and keeping an eye on things, because as Mike mentioned, things
We
have been
just
splintered off
want-
quite a bit. We're just sort of keeping an eye
You know,
on the situation, and
we
these,
just want
these
law and
groups
order.
that are a bit scattered
That's
all
it.
over the place right now.
That's all I
We're
want.
not- We're going into a
I
phase
want to be able to
where
send my
we're
grandkids
not
to the
congregated
store
necessarily around
and not have
the,
to worry about getting run
yep,
over
there it
or
was, and there's another one
kidnapped
right
or
there.
whatever. I mean, they're throwing
not
stuff at
congregated around the
cars
101
now,
or
people.
congregated around that collection of Waymos less than a mile away, and et cetera, et cetera. Now we're sort of taking a look at different pockets everywhere else. And yeah, there's law enforcement just sort of keeping an eye on things as well. It's hard to make out exactly how many there are.
Karen,
but
I don't-
let's, as we mentioned, it is a numbers game in their favor
Okay, if
right
you
now.
feel that
because
way,
they're
that's the great
establishing
thing
these
about
lines
America.
wherever they go.
You have an
And
opinion.
then a collection of
Good, I put it up. I hope
protesters
you feel
and
better.
other stragglers are sort of winding themselves around.
That Chevron gas station there.
So one thing
is
about
that
this
right across the
channel,
street from Olvera?
we don't care if you have an
Olvera Street?
opinion.
I
That's
believe
good.
so. It looks like we have Lauren Posen on the ground for us right now. Lauren, where are
Thank you,
What are
Pam.
you seeing?
So, Leslie, we just moved up on Main Street. We're at Main and First here. We're with the officers with the motorcycles, and we saw some smoke a little bit further, like the next block down. It looks like the fire is out now, but there does seem to be a cluster of people over there. And I'm seeing, what am I seeing over here? I just see more of the smoke again like that. We also saw a whole bunch of patrol cars coming through here with their sirens on as well.
There you go. You get
It's
two.
a lot of activity over here. On Los Angeles, there's
I
another,
give you as much
I
as you
think I heard
want.
Mike
You
say
need the
something
attention, I'll
about
give it to you.
people maybe splintering off into clusters. That's what I'm seeing here. That's Los Angeles.
Exactly, Bonnie.
And I see a cluster group over there. I don't think they're doing any, it looks normal and calm over there, but it's really chaotic out here. We've been hearing
You're
a lot
right.
of flash
They want
bombs go
peace.
off.
I agree with you.
You know, a lot of sirens, a lot of
And
fireworks.
they should follow
There's just
the
a
law.
lot happening. It's really
Like
noisy.
you or me.
It's loud, and you can't tell kind of where
That's
the
it.
sounds are
It's
coming
that
from
simple.
until you see those sparks. Now, traffic is moving, though. I mean, you see the cars here. So traffic hasn't been impacted totally over here, considering the freeway shut down. But that's what we have. I should also mention, too, that police do have blocked off Main at first, and then down where we were earlier, and forgive me, I forget where it was. It's Main, over by City Hall. Temple, there we go, Temple, Main and Temple. So police do have both. There's police in the skirmish line down by Main and Temple. So that's what's out here. And I this is really minimal at this point, but I have to say, because I'm looking right at it, the destruction to downtown LA is unbelievable. Every single building in downtown I see has graffiti all over it. There's trash all over. It's just, it's a mess down here. It's a complete mess.
Yeah, Lauren, you were staged outside of pretty much LAPD headquarters there. And
Yeah,
There you
and I
go.
should
It's your
say,
third
too,
one.
They do have barricades up by
Don't keep
LAPD,
putting
so
them
no
up.
one
That's
can get through
okay.
the barricades there. That's something we see normally in
You're
these
entitled
situations.
to an opinion.
That's
good.
Yes, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Leslie.
No, I was saying we're seeing obviously action where you are, or at least police.
Whoops. I don't know what happened. Stand
there,
by.
But we're also seeing a large as LAPD has mass amounts of patrol cars over in this area. And this moment ago, we did see several people start to put, I saw one person put a garbage can in the middle of the roadway, right?
Yeah, it was a garbage can, and a couple other sort of makeshift barricades. You also hear all the honking too, you know, because traffic is still flowing in the area, but it sounds like there's as much agitation from some drivers as there is, you know, elsewhere. And I hear even more. Lauren, is that more of the flash bombs and other things that you were making note of?
Yes, there's more. It's probably flash bombs, or maybe I'm going to firecrackers. I see over here. Okay, so there's a group on the LAPD building side on the corner there, and they seem to be lighting off something. It's probably those fireworks again. They just keep throwing them on the ground. And, you know, I can't say it enough here. It's incredibly dangerous. You have cars driving right by. They haven't closed down these streets over here on this main street on where we are here. So you have cars driving by, people lighting off fireworks. I'm not sure who they're directing it at. I don't know if they're just throwing it in the ground or what their purpose is, but they're creating a really dangerous situation. Oh, here comes another one right here.
Oh.
It's like a sparkler at that. It wasn't as loud as the other ones I've heard. And, you know, I think, too, another thing that amplifies all the noise is because we are in downtown, the buildings really can make it sound really loud. And that's always what jolts me. Here's another one, a sparkler. Not as intense as we've seen throughout the night, but definitely, you know,
But
that's what's happening.
Yeah,
Somehow they're getting hold of these.
And going off of that, Lauren, I mean, the fact that the fireworks, I mean, even if it doesn't look, yeah, there's sparklers or there's just the occasional one there, but we've seen multiple times how if it just catches on the wrong side of a car or underneath the wrong portion of a car, that's going to light something on fire, or it can hit somebody. You made this point specifically too, where it can hit a wall or something else, and you're hit with trash and shrapnel and of the like. So there's almost like layers of an onion to this, in that there's a lot going on, and the danger of it might not seem obvious, but of course it can feel relatively calm compared to what we were showing hours ago. But right now there's still a lot that you're keeping an eye on, and a lot to still be sort of worried about, because anything could change on a moment's notice.
Yeah. And I want to get to this situation that we're looking at from SkyCal. Sorry, Lauren, not to get you off here, but we're seeing a bit bigger group closer to Cesar Chavez and Alameda that is staged right near this Chevron station. And you can see, you know, just down the way from them is
So they're setting up
a group
roadblocks
of
again.
LAPD vehicles. They have also placed those garbage cans, those large garbage cans in the middle of the roadway to block it off. And so you're seeing LAPD now come to this area and address the situation closer to Placita Olvera, or Olvera Street there. And we wonder, and we're going to keep our eye on if they move in. So we will see if that happens, but on both ends of our chopper shots, you're seeing on the left side what police are addressing this situation, this blockade that has popped up here on Alameda. And look, someone's setting this on fire.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That goes back to what we were looking at on the overpass too, where you just see, I mean,
what were we looking at on First Street, right? Where
that too, yeah, where they actually
Yeah,
did
and
set
these
it on
aren't
fire.
fuel.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like
More of those,
lighting
more of that
fires.
popping. It sounds like fireworks off in the background as
Closer
well.
to where Lauren is.
And a bit of a reaction from officers as well.
That's real gunfire.
It's not really stopping at the moment as we take a listen to this. Hey, even more and more and more. Go ahead, Lauren.
Yes, Gio. Yeah, yes, I was going to say yes. They are throwing off those fireworks again. Now we have an ambulance coming, and let's see if they let this ambulance by. This is something I have noticed throughout the night. The cars haven't been moving for the ambulance, or first responders, the firemen, the fire trucks when they go by too. Here, they let them go by. Not sure what that's in response to, if there was something that happened up the road with maybe those fireworks, but there they go. And you can now see, you hear the honking. This is this atmosphere that we're in the middle of
you,
here.
Sharon.
You got the alarm, you got the
Keep safe.
sirens,
Have
you
a
got
good
the
evening.
honking, you have the fireworks going off. You know, I know it can look calm at home, but it's really, when you're on the ground here, it's a much different story, because you're right in the thick of it.
Yeah, truly, and we're seeing plenty of law enforcement action, maybe less demonstrators still out there where you are. We're seeing many more demonstrators closer to Alameda and Cesar Chavez, where they have again set up this blockade in the street with at least 2 garbage cans. They also set something on fire. It looks to be a small fire right now, Gio. You can see it right there in the middle
I
of the
look
street.
at it like you can't
Plus
fix
he's setting
stupid.
some, garbage on fire.
No, you see a good view of
No sense
Yeah,
in
you're seeing
trying.
that.
too.
Lauren, is there a fire where you are?
Oh, you know what, Leslie? I just moved to the other side, and yes, there is a fire.
Okay.
I don't know if we're going to be
Now
able
they're
to
starting
show you.
fires around the
And now
city.
there's
we
some
can
patrol
see
cars
it.
coming down.
Okay.
You can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. For now, from where I'm at, it doesn't look very big, but nonetheless, it's a fire, and that's not what we want to see tonight. You know, again, the mayor stressing, the governor stressing, they don't want to see violence and disruption like this. And I mean, that's not what they're asking for here as we're looking at this fire.
Yeah.
They want it peaceful.
Yeah, you can see a lot of those motorcycles, it looks like, or bikes, staged right here at the Chevron gas station. That's where many, or I should say a good group has begun to congregate. Plenty of law enforcement still out there, plenty of LAPD. We saw maybe 24 of them who are behind this building here on the left side of your screen. and it looks like maybe they're coming up with some sort of plan. But at this point, they're kind of just staged behind that building right now.
Yeah, it's sort of at
Thank
that
you,
point
Glenn.
of
Welcome to the team.
day and night
We sure
where
appreciate
I know
you.
we constantly refer and go back to
JG.
the ebbs and flows of a situation. There was a quick flash there, very briefly,
Firework.
and some smoke, from a firework.
Pam,
Let's get back to Lori Perez.
thank you so
and
much,
check in
each
with
of
her on
you.
what she's seeing. Lori,
You're
where
awesome.
are you right now?
So we decided to kind of follow the crowd, or where they push the crowd down past Olvera Street and down towards Chinatown. And I wanted to show you just some of what apparently happened along the way. You can see everything
all
here
the-
is just toppled over.
city
You can see a lot of
scooters
those
destroyed there, the
concrete,
green.
pieces that the crowd had been throwing down onto the freeway. A lot of those are here now on the street, and then just past that in the background you can see all of the officers.
Yeah, people hanging out with their groceries at the riot.
Beyond them there seems to be a lot of action. The crowd is just beyond this light.
They're
down
probably
the street
asking,
here.
you got
And
chips in
that's
that
where they
bag?
seem to have assembled.
But in
And,
California, you
these
can actually
officers
just
are kind of,
take it.
Opposed
Take
to
the bag
that.
with
So
the
you can
chips.
see some smoke in the air.
Everything.
This seems
It's
to
not
be
a crime.
where they have since assembled and
Why not?
are facing off with the police officers, the helicopters overhead, also adding to kind of the tense situation here at this intersection. People screaming and yelling, the officers. Okay, the officers now are.
There you go, and that's,
And you just saw that bag.
can I kick it? Exact.
Officers
This is
making a
why
move away from it, so perhaps they feel that they have
good
gotten
people
a good
get
enough
caught up
handle
in bad
on
things
it,
from bad people doing
and they
bad
can
things.
kind of retreat a bit. We're
Here
going
come
to
the
head down,
LAPD
continue to head in
special-
that direction just to keep an eye
Special
on where the crowd
response
has gone.
teams, SRTs.
We did see a tremendous amount of damage along the way, unfortunately past Olvera Street, on some of the new buildings along Olvera Street that had recently undergone some redevelopment. All of the windows, all of the building sides have been tagged, broken windows, etc., which is of course a shame, especially in this part of town. Now that they have cleared out, you can see the traffic does seem to be continuing. So, a lot going on. We're just going to keep an eye on it for you. Guys, back to you.
Lori, thank you. Let's get back to Lauren. We were just making a note of that fire that Lauren Posen could see from her vantage point. Lauren, has that gotten bigger?
It looks like it's getting bigger, yeah, and it looks like it may have be on the street. So we're about a block away from it, and I see there's a crowd of people over there. Chopper might be able to get a better vantage point because I don't want to walk over there. I like to stay back from where that's happening, but I don't know if it's a trash can on fire or
Yeah, that's a good
or what.
point.
But it does look like it's getting bigger. I don't know if they're putting more things into it to make that happen. But again, this is happening right as traffic is going right by, and I can't stress enough just how dangerous this can be here. You have people, there's people all over here in downtown, and this fire
This is
can very
not a
easily get out of
protest.
control. I'm sure that the fire department's watching it closely, or they're going to be here soon. But
Thank you.
this again just does not speak to what the governor and the mayor are saying that they want to see happen here.
I
They don't
agree
want to
with
see
you,
this type of
Bert.
activity.
Love your name, by the way.
Lauren,
And this also is what we were.
Hi, Laura. Thank you
no,
so
go for it.
much.
Go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Les, I was just going to say real quickly, this also was something I mentioned in one,
Yes,
of,
sir.
one of my concerns in covering protests like this, and from St. Louis to
84,
Atlanta and here
86.
in LA, is when the sun goes down.
I was in Vice.
That's when things can really take a turn. That's what
I
we
was a
saw
Vice
last night.
detective.
That's what we saw Friday.
And
while
thank
this
you
right
for your
now
service.
is mild compared to what we saw, last
Semper
night,
Fi,
there's
Devil
still
Dog.
a lot of hours ahead of us.
We
here.
wouldn't have put up with this,
And
right?
So, and I also think that Mike was also saying too, perhaps what we're seeing are more the agitators, more so than the protesters. These are people that want to antagonize
What are
the police. They want
agitators
to
and
cause a scene.
protesters today?
They want a reaction.
Anybody know?
And that's most likely what we're. Oh, there we go. What we're seeing tonight. I heard another firecracker go
So
off. right over there.
agitators must be
And Lauren, it doesn't
people
look
that
like
throw
LAFD is nearby at all,
things at the
right?
cops
Or is LAPD addressing that
and
situation over there?
protesters.
I have not seen any
Must be
fire.
the
I just
people
saw
that
that
get hit,
paramedic go by.
like the cops,
paramedic truck. I have not seen the
by
fire
the
department
agitators.
yet. No, I'm scanning as I can here. I don't see the trucks. I most importantly, I don't hear the sirens, so I don't hear that. But hopefully it will just stay contained there. But I don't see. I know, of course, the police are here with us. They are, as I said, they're blocking off Main. in first, but they're focused on something else right now. You know, just they're not focused on the fire. They're watching it,
Thank
but they're
you,
not.
KLB.
They're focused on other priorities right now.
Got it. So I'm sure they'll
And now
just kind of monitor the situation as it
State-
continues to unfold. It's just really concerning, of course.
You know, in World War
Lauren, because of all the
II,
traffic, right? I mean,
Yamamoto
it's earlier when
was
the windows
asked
were down and
by-
everything else is sort of cleared out and moved out of the way, even
The,
people. But right now,
Prime Minister
and
of
this is one of
Japan,
the
why they should
striking
not
images really is
land
that
on
as
the
your live shot
beaches
is standing there,
in the United
a number
States.
of people have just sort of walked on by
And
as if they're just
Yamamoto,
carrying
who
on with the
studied
night,
in
which I'm sure many people are.
the United
And
States,
then in
who
the
also
background, you
planned
see
the Pearl Harbor
typical
attack,
heavy flow of traffic moving back and
gave
forth,
him
and then a fire that's inching its
2
way,
words,
you know, toward the street,
actually
and
3.
then you have folks either taking photos of it or otherwise
Second
starting it,
Amendment.
fueling it. It's, it's alive.
It looked like someone took
He said we would fight them house to
of some
house,
sort or a box of some sort and just threw it
door to
into
door.
those flames to obviously fuel
Thank
it.
you, Tarn. You're
which
amazing.
we'll do. It's
Right, and yeah.
Yes, Alan,
Okay.
pray for peace.
We have a patrol
cannot
cruiser here. He's got the
disagree
sirens on, but
1%
he's going the other way.
at
And that's
all.
exactly right, Leslie. And
You
that's
are
one of the
so
big
right.
concerns here is, you know, I don't know
Thank
if
you,
the people that
Valerie.
are setting these, starting these
you.
fires understand how
Robin,
they're putting
thank you
innocent
for being
people,
with
you
us
know,
for
at risk
13
here.
months.
Because
Karen
the
and
fire
I,
could easily, I mean, we just went
EIR,
through
we
the
are
biggest
so
fire in
grateful.
California history just 3 months
And
ago.
others, if you're just
And these fires are
visiting with
very
us here
serious,
tonight,
and they can catch
if
other
you
things
would
on fire
be
very
kind
quickly.
enough
There's a
to
lot
hit
of
the
trees over
subscribe
here.
button, I would be grateful.
It's just a really dangerous situation. And again, you have people in their cars,
yeah.
you have people on bikes. You see people going by on
Plastic
bikes here.
wine.
Downtown is still
Mostly
very active
peaceful.
tonight. And
Exactly.
Gio, to your point too, I've seen so many people. I don't want to use the word spectator, but I've seen people, but taking their phones out and just capturing all this. They're not involved in the protests. They're not involved in any of it. They just want to be a part of the scene here and capturing it.
Vice
But
means I
in doing so, they're also putting
used
themselves
to,
at risk. I mean, you heard the police chief earlier
work
tonight
with
saying how
ladies of the
dangerous
evening.
it is out here. Not only for his department, but also for people.
Actually.
It's a very dangerous situation.
Lauren, thank you. We'll be sure to check back in with you as we keep an eye on obviously this fire and everything else that's going on around the area right now. Is the live view from SkyCal on the left side? I just want to confirm whether or not that's the same exact shot. It's just from overhead.
Yeah. Okay, we want to get Mike Rogers' mic. He's going to work on getting that because he has some information. I was asking, hey, is this the same as the first fire that we saw a couple of minutes ago?
Thank you, sir.
And he was working to find out those details for us. So we're going to let him get mic'd up here. There you
We
go.
still love
So
working
yeah,
with the
it is
Marines.
still First and Spring. It's
We
the
had
same
the
location
MPs out in town
outside
in
of
Lumber
LAPD
County.
headquarters, and it's funny because, or not funny, but interesting because as you
None
talk
of
about
this would've
spectators,
happened.
the reason I can tell that the ground shot and the live shot or the helicopter shot are the same is because people are standing there taking pictures, and you can see there's people in construction vests, hard hats. That are all standing there, being spectators, if you will. I mean, I know that's the word that was, being used, but that's what they're doing. They're taking photos, and it's hard to tell what's being burned. But the construction vests and hard hats is interesting to me. I don't know if they're trying to blend in as some sort of public worker or something like that, but things continue to be kind of tossed in this. And this is what happens now. You've got the group that is splintered off. So LAPD is back over at that other location near Chinatown dealing with that. And then this is on fire, ironically, right outside of police headquarters. So police headquarters is just at the bottom of the screen here.
But the crews, I should say, the officers are deployed everywhere else right now. They're not sitting in this office.
Yeah, right.
So
Right.
That's the thing.
I remember
And
in
what we did see,
'92
the
during
motor
the
officers, there was a lot of them.
LA riots.
They're just down in the street.
Yes.
But
when they
at this point,
went after Parker Center.
what can they do? I mean, they want LAFD to come in here and possibly put this out, but until it's safe for them to do so, they're not going to come in here.
Right, and I am listening to the radio. I am listening to LAPD talking about redeploying to a couple of areas. I'm sure this would be one of them, but that's kind of the situation. Is you have these protesters, and I know our Lori
peacefully
Perez
set a row of
is down there
electric
as well in kind of the midst
on
of all
fire
of this.
earlier.
Lori, where are you
Yeah,
at?
I love it.
Yeah, so this is a really intense
Let's get
situation.
here.
So we are on the corner of, this is Main, and what is this? Mojo, you know what this is? I'm sorry, I don't know, but we are right near the Chevron station. Oh, Cesar Chavez and Maine, and things are really out of control. You can see a group of kids now are throwing rocks. I think they're about to go into this Chevron and take it over. They've been throwing rocks at passing cars. There's a car on fire about maybe 100 yards from where we are, maybe 50 yards from where we are. Ooh.
This is when the guns come out, people. When citizens in their cars.
I think the police are headed here because they see that.
Yeah, someone is doing donuts
Look
in the
at
middle
this.
of the roadway there. A minivan.
This is not a protest, everybody. Come on.
Yes,
They're
and they're
throwing
about to
rocks at
overtake
this
this
guy.
Chevron, I believe, because they've been throwing
Look at him.
rocks and
He's
such
gonna
into
roll
it,
people.
trying to break into it.
He's
This
going to
is a
drive
much
over
younger
people.
crowd, I will note, a much younger crowd than the crowd that we first encountered when we first got on the scene with the demonstrators. A lot of amped up young teenagers around here and young men.
There is a minivan, Lori, that we're keeping our
Wow,
eye
this
on
guy's
that
going to
was
drive
doing
over
donuts
people, everybody, and we're
in
watching it.
reverse, and now is driving very erratically. That person also throwing things out of the window. Take a look. They're trying to make their way into the
Oh my
Placito
gosh, here we
Rivera
go.
Street area. And this could be a very dangerous situation. We don't know who is behind the wheel of this minivan here or what their intentions are.
Oh, you know what?
That is
Yeah, can you go
Olvera
back?
Street. That's
Can you?
Oh, crud. What the heck, over? I don't want to see that. I don't know like
on this
that.
minivan that's driving through
Newspaper either.
sidewalks.
Look at their
right now.
lighting things up on fire now.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
And they're totally in a pedestrian area. They've almost hit a couple of pedestrians. You've got the fire on the right-hand side of the street.
That guy in the bottom left-hand
very
corner.
quickly transitioned into chaos in multiple parts of downtown. You've got
Yes.
fire at First and Spring. You've got this really hectic location.
He's going to
where
drive
Lori
over
is at,
somebody.
And now
We're
you've
going to
got
watch
this
it. We're going
minivan
to see it
that is
live.
driving
He's going
through
to kill
pedestrian
somebody.
areas
Watch this.
with absolutely no regard to
Oh my
anybody.
gosh.
The right side of your picture is now Lauren Posen's live shot, where that
Unbelievable.
fire is growing in size as well.
Oh my goodness.
My concern is this current
Yeah,
minivan.
don't watch. Look at he's going after people.
Just ran towards the crowd.
Yeah,
See?
Lori, you're right by this minivan, right?
Look at
You
this,
see that
guys.
minivan?
Yes, he just came right at us.
Lori should probably get away from that
Oh
area.
my goodness. Here
Driving
we
in
go,
reverse
guys.
right
This is
now
what we're
down
talking
the
about.
street. This person was throwing something out of the minivan, and we don't know.
This could
who,
actually be a terror
they are, how
attack
many people are in that
simultaneously.
minivan, but look, this crowd is now.
And we're seeing
going
it
towards
live.
it. Looks like
What's
a
wrong with
gentleman
this
or a
person?
person without a shirt on.
Yeah, shirtless for sure. This is insane. I mean, this person is out to cause harm.
Yeah, and that
What
can
do
be a
you
very
mean?
scary
This
situation
person's out to
here.
cause harm. He's out to kill somebody.
You can see now the people.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to.
Lori, be careful because that minivan's coming back your direction.
Back towards you.
Woo! Oh my God.
And the crowd is now chasing the van.
Here they come.
Oh man.
Yeah, Lori, we want you to
Lori
go.
should, yeah.
Here they come.
Look at this.
I mean, you got people chasing just straight up to the driver's side. I mean,
He's going to make a
throwing
U-turn
things
and
at
come
the
back
van.
at
This
him.
person is was driving, through the park right by Olvera Street. They were throwing stuff out of their vehicle, doing donuts in the middle of the roadway. And I don't know.
There he
if law
goes. He's coming
enforcement
around the block,
even
guys.
has an eye on this person, but this is Union Station now.
And I will tell you, Mojo just mentioned, we had seen that same minivan up over near the overpass. It was, the guy was leaning out of the window. He was, jawing at the police officers, jawing at CHP, and they kept trying to tell him to get out of there, get out of there. He
Here
just
he
kept
comes.
yapping and yapping. That's the same guy. So obviously
blacked
something's
out
happening
now.
with him. This
This is a terror
insanity.
attack.
I don't even know what's
my God,
happening.
Wow,
now.
look at he
I mean,
just
look
hit
at
a
this
guy.
behind me. This is.
He clipped the back end of that bicyclist, and the bicycle went flying.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just zooming through here right
Yeah,
now. Just
that
parked
guy,
at
I think
Union
he's
Station.
on something. I don't know, but
He parked at Union Station briefly and then just fired the van back
There he
up
goes,
and just
guys.
kept driving and clearly going incredibly fast.
This is a terror attack coming
The
at
person
you.
doesn't have a shirt on. They look highly agitated, and now you can see making their way through the back end of Union Station. They're going to hit a dead end here, I think. No, they're not. They're going to keep going.
Or train tracks right there.
There is a lot happening right now.
Yeah.
Almost hitting a law enforcement vehicle, that metro vehicle, and take a look, going into the parking lot here.
I think he's in the backside of Union Station now because there's an Amtrak train right there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the dumpster fire is getting bigger right now. I mean, you almost want to say it's incredibly fortunate and lucky that nobody was hit head on by this minivan.
I can't believe they weren't.
Yeah, it's just terrifying to look at right now in a multitude of ways. Well, obviously all this on the right side of your screen still going on as well.
Yeah, the right side is closer to where Lori was, closer to that Chevron station there on Alameda.
So where's the guy in the van?
Chavez, and we try to keep our eye on that minivan and that driver who was, looked like driving very erratically, and we were afraid they were going to hit someone because at times they were driving on the sidewalk. So we'll keep our eye on this situation if we can find that driver again. But we want to get to our Lauren Posen because we know she's near Metro headquarters where this fire is now getting larger and larger, and the crowd is as well.
Yeah, Leslie, that's right. As soon as you guys left us, I don't know how to describe them, but there's those little motorcycle bikes that people are not supposed to ride in the streets, but they do. They went in like circles. They were doing donuts right in front of where that fire is, and setting off more fireworks. And it looks like from where I'm at, that fire is getting bigger. I see someone. Oh, there we go, another firework. And I'm telling you, I've been out here now for 2 days, and I have heard these flash bombs go off and these fireworks go off, and it still startles me every single time. That's how loud it is. Even though we're a block away, it is so loud. You just get jolted.
This is going to be bad, guys.
What else can I tell you? I see there's patrol cars making their way around, but I see smoke. That's probably from
this guy's headed towards the people.
A firebomb that just went off, the fireworks there, and that fire is just getting. It looks like it's getting bigger. I have not seen any fire trucks come by yet. I'm not quite sure why. They probably have other priorities tonight they're working on within this area, but I'm sure they're aware of it happening. And it is seemed to be just condensed in that one little area there in the corner by that bus stop. Another firework going off there. And now I hear patrol cars coming down. We'll see what happens here. A lot of people just walking by, kind of taking this all in. Here come the patrol cars. I'll let you take a listen.
You can see.
Here we go.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four patrol cars. And you can see what I'm talking about here. Now, well, see, the traffic is still going, but, usually when you got patrol cars behind you, you have to move out of the way, but that's not happening here. I also hear people revving up their engines over where the fire is. Okay, here come the patrol cars. They might be going to address the situation by the fire over here. Not put it out, but address whoever's throwing things into it. One thing I want to mention, too, when I was out here last night, I was talking to one of the organizers of a protest that was happening yesterday, and I had asked, I said, are the people here, are they being flown in from other states? Because that's something that can happen, in past protests I've covered. That's when I was in Atlanta. People were being flown in to be disruptive, and he told me yesterday, no, everyone here, they're Angelenos. Now, I don't know if that's the same case for tonight, if these are agitators being brought in from different cities, different states, or if they're just people that are very upset, and that's what we're seeing here. It's hard to say right now, but that's something to keep in mind as well, because that's something I've noticed in reporting in other states, that people can be flown in from, as I said, different cities, different states, to cause this type of disruption.
You guys seeing this guy in the van?
Yeah, and we're just keeping an eye on that fire there as it's still going, but that law enforcement movement, at least toward that area.
He's going up on the sidewalk almost.
Okay,
he's got a right-hand turn.
Lauren, in the meantime, over on the left side of your screen here, we're still keeping an eye on that minivan because it's been going in a sort of,
It's going in a circle here, right?
Yeah.
They're circling back
Yeah.
to
It's
gonna come
Olvera
back.
Street now.
Well, it has moved actually kind of a little bit further east. So they're actually kind of over like, nearest like Mariachi Plaza. So we did get away from where the rest of the protesters were, but look at this.
Yeah.
I mean,
This
this is
person
nuts.
driving incredibly erratic, and law enforcement already has their hands full in this area. So at this point, we're just hoping they stay away from people. But blowing through intersections here, you can see front.
He's
end
going to hit.
vehicle,
Oh,
Look at
man.
that.
He's
that
going to create a
vehicle,
problem.
and
It's coming.
we're gonna keep our eye on that. We don't know who this person is, but we did see them head over towards Olvera Street, where they then went into the park. They're now in the East LA area, and so that was a very
he's
dangerous
over
situation. Some of those
near
demonstrators
Main
even
Street.
tried to
chase after
chase
it.
after
I mean,
that minivan.
throwing items at the minivan as well. I mean, that's what a few.
I mean, that was really intense.
Yeah, yeah, and then clipped a bike at one point too, right?
Yeah,
right, Mike?
the back tire of it. I mean, it looked like the person on the bike was okay, but I definitely saw the bicycle fall after that ordeal, and that was at Union Station. Like that was in the drop-off area of Union Station. Now, yeah, we're in like the Boyle Heights area here at Savannah and First Street. You see that school, I believe that's Roosevelt High School, that is right beneath it. Now, we had seen the van come down this street right here and then stop around that tree. So I don't know where it went now, but hopefully it's stopped and not continuing to drive the way it was.
Yeah, and that is the hope, because LAPD is not pursuing this vehicle,
No.
but I don't think they're even
There it is
aware
right
of
there.
that situation. Did they park, Plank?
Yeah, they're back. It's that last car right there on the
Okay.
side of the street. You can tell because it's got such significant front end damage.
Fancy lap.
Yeah, this
I
is
know,
the
right?
Second or third
Karen's
time
going to
now
be
we've seen it
happy.
just come to a full stop.
She's going to be like, what
we'll
did
see
you
what it
do?
does here, but the last
Oh,
couple
there's the
of
guy.
times.
So he's walking
I
back.
had a good
he got
time with
out.
everybody.
He was shirtless.
I had to
or he still
watch
is
this tonight,
shirtless.
and I figured I'd watch
There
it
he
with
goes,
you.
getting back in it.
Yeah, that's a really dangerous situation because he was throwing things at
He's out of
some
the van.
people, and you don't know, is he
Good point.
angry, with the protest?
Under the
Is
influence.
he under
Right.
the influence? Is he just not, is he having a mental health episode? We don't know. We're keeping an eye on that, but then on
Do you
the
think
other
he
side,
had a
we've seen
mental
smoke
health
come from
episode?
that large fire there outside LAPD
The
headquarters. We saw
Hey,
massive
maybe he
amounts
had a
of patrol
mental health
cars make their way
episode. We
down
don't
there,
know.
but I
Well,
don't know if Liz
yeah,
can
no
hear me.
kidding.
Lauren, are
What's he doing?
officers making their way to that area, or did they go ahead and stage somewhere else?
Oh, he's cleaning out his van. They were throwing rocks and stuff at him. Remember? He's got something
I
that.
can't hear you right now, but I can tell you that tear.
Officers were headed this way, but
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but I can tell you that tear gas has been deployed. We can feel it again in our throats. Not as intense as last night, but definitely you can taste it.
He's switching cars.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
trying to
he's
get
switching
reconnected
cars.
right now.
Oh, wow.
Holy cow, guys.
Lauren, while we reestablish that connection with you, we'll give you a few minutes if you need it. It's just this keeps getting stranger and stranger, really, with on the left side of your screen with this minivan. Mike, were you saying he was switching cars? Is that what we're looking at right now?
So the van, and I don't know what he's doing, but so you got the van. Oh, here comes law enforcement.
Oh,
so this
okay.
is sheriff.
Okay.
Well, that's the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
It truly is. He
Thank
was
you.
talking to some gentlemen there, and they have come to or put him under arrest here, or at least
Thank
detain him. Mike, for a moment there, he did
And your
turn the
local
lights on
homeless guy
on
right there on the
a
left
different
hand side.
SUV, and
Yeah.
we thought he was going to get in that one.
And it looked like, he got in the back of the van, he took out what looked like a coat or something that he was kind of waving off, and then he walked over to what looked like a white SUV and started to get into that one and turn the headlights on like he was about to go, get into that car. Thank goodness this is sheriff's deputies that came in here and are able to take him into custody now.
Yeah, well, at least this comes to an end here.
Yeah.
An especially dangerous situation that could have been cataclysmically worse for these last half an hour, these last 20 minutes or so. Let's go back to Lauren right now, because we're obviously monitoring two situations at once, including this one. The other one, Lauren, you were saying that
He's
tear
in
gas is
custody.
being deployed, not quite as intense as
10-8.
last night, but what's the situation
All
like
units
right now?
cleared.
We kind of got the drift of it, the aftermath of it, wherever it was deployed. I couldn't tell you where it was, but you could just taste it in the air. I'm assuming it was a block up from where we are. I didn't hear it or see it, but I can taste
Maybe just
it.
as
And my
wasn't
eyes
that
are watering
calm,
again,
though.
but
Right.
nothing as to the level as I experienced last night. I can tell you that fire is still burning, and
The officer got on the phone.
you know, there's a lot
or
of
on the
honking
radio
going
and
on, but
said,
that fire is
code for
still very much a thing down a block
suspect
from
in
where we are
custody,
here, just
1016,
beyond the
transporting
police
home.
headquarters here.
Thank you.
But let me tell you that
Busy
tear gas, it
paid,
is potent. You
glad
can just
to be.
it goes right up your nose
42
and right
months.
into your
Holy
throat.
cow.
Fortunately,
Wow.
we weren't as close as we were last night,
We've
so it's
had
not
3
as bad,
birthdays
but
together.
it's still bad.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
Lauren,
much.
thank you so much. We're going to continue to monitor
Yes,
the
that was
situation.
very
I'm seeing
close,
something from
Julie.
LAPD Central
I
Division
agree.
now, Mike.
The county jail
I
will
don't
be
know if
full
you've
tonight.
heard,
Is it a
but
full moon, by the way?
downtown
I
Los
haven't looked
Angeles
outside
as a
right now.
whole has been declared an unlawful assembly.
The whole downtown area. And
Yeah,
you heard Chief Jim McDonnell. I mean, he was asked, "Are you going to
Oh,
institute
man.
a curfew?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he
you're
said,
here
"Look,
on
we
TIR.
really
Just
don't
put your
like to do
seatbelt
that. It's
on.
very
I'll
disruptive
get
to
you
the
through
area.
it.
It's really difficult to enforce."
Yes, Kate,
So
I agree.
these are the steps they're taking. But I mean, the downtown Los Angeles as a whole being declared an unlawful assembly we're getting closer, I think, kind of to that move. I mean,
curfew,
and the reason they're doing that is because as soon as they kind of get one area under control, very quickly they move and they're in a different area of downtown
hopefully
or
not,
Chinatown or wherever, and then all of a sudden you have to redeploy all those officers to get and deal with that area. I mean, so declaring the whole area an unlawful assembly. I mean, obviously the officers are not going to pick up people that are just minding their business and walking down the street, but it allows them the flexibility to say anybody involved, this is your warning. If we get you, we're arresting you.
Yeah, we're seeing fireworks. You're seeing that fire definitely grow, at least the smoke in that area. We want to get to Lori Perez. Lori, are you still near that Chevron station? That was a pretty scary situation with that minivan coming through there and nearly coming onto the sidewalk where you were standing.
Almost ran you over.
Yeah, unfortunately, we still are here because there's so much going on. It seems that this is the corner of Cesar Chavez and Main where most of the demonstrators who remained have started to gather. There are now many people in their cars. You can hear the honking coming by, expressing support. But then crowds of aggressive agitators seem to be centered around that Chevron station. They lit that garbage can on fire, and LAFD has just moments ago arrived on the scene. They're going to try and take care of that. LAPD responding now in force to this area because there's just a lot going on. People starting to do donuts and people on mini bikes and people throwing rocks into the windows of the local businesses and tagging all of the walls around here as they move about the city. A lot of young people, I will say, compared to the crowd that we saw when we first arrived. Helicopters above, keeping an eye on this still developing situation. But this is really, really chaotic down here. Much different than the scene, even over there when they were on the overpass, as destructive and as dangerous as that was. This is really taking things to a new level, a new heightened state of, I would say, just a terror and panic over here, and not a good place to be. But the good thing is we are seeing the LAPD arriving, so hopefully they'll be able to tamp things down a bit and get things under control because it is not in control at the moment. Guys, back to you.
No, especially not. Lori, thank you. Yeah, when you see that dumpster in the middle of the street on fire right now, we're trying to keep an eye. We just saw someone, protester, drive by, flag waving, and then traffic just seems to be really caught up in this entire situation. And
night shifts are right.
But,
right, and they're all back.
There's more fireworks going off as well. And it doesn't look like that fire's dying down at the moment, and you just see everyone that's strapped in there.
Yeah,
right now.
baby.
That trash can now set on fire. You know, it's not a large group of protesters that we're seeing right now, but it's a very
matching bracelets
group of
for everybody. Light them up.
Still out on the streets. And Lori mentioned that in this area where she is, she's seeing and she's observing a lot of younger
Yes.
people
Mm-hmm.
that
Remember
are
Austin
kind of just
Powers?
coming in here trying
Danger's
to get
my
into that
middle
Chevron
name.
station. You know,
Oh,
when we
behave.
first got over this, the lights were still on in that Chevron station.
Let's
We have not
go.
turned them off.
Right.
And I'm hoping those employees have, you know, at least left that area, because that is a very dangerous situation.
And gotten to safety just because of everything else that's been going on, and it just seems like every time, you know, there's some progress made on moving a crowd or dispersing a crowd and shifting them into a different direction, it just the next bout of chaos just moves to whatever next available space there is. Even getting to a point now, as Leslie mentioned, from LAPD Central Division, where you have the entirety of downtown LA declared an unlawful assembly, and here we are. It just gets pushed out.
Yeah, what we were just seeing from SkyCal was, you know, they still have the southbound lanes of the 101 shut down there at the 110, but what we were seeing is that they finally were able to tow away those CHP cars, that were stuck there, that had been destroyed by people.
And really quickly, guys, you know, this is, you know, it's local to us, but this is being, you know, on a national stage at the moment, and even an international stage. And, you know, our viewers are watching. The president is watching, President Donald Trump, tweeting, on Truth Social saying, looking really bad in LA, bring in the troops. He's also referencing Chief Jim McDonald's press conference, saying Jim McDonald, the highly respected LAPD chief, just stated the protesters are getting very much more aggressive, and that he would, quote, have to reassess the situation, end quote, as it pertains to bringing in the troops. He should, right now, don't let these thugs get away with this. Make America great again. And again, that is what President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social.
And to give context to that, Chief Jim McDonald was asked specifically, he was asked, you know, do we need the National Guard? Does your department need the National Guard? And he said, basically, the National Guard is not here to help us. They have not been helping us. If they would have been deployed by the governor, it would have given us, you know, an upper hand on the protesters. But right now, they are here to secure the federal property. So when things like this happen on our city streets, they're not out here.
Right, because they're not under the command of the governor.
No.
They're under the command of the federal government. They've been activated by U.S. Northern Command. But then it goes back. We have to go back to what the governor and Mayor Bass have said was that we don't need the National Guard. So it's this ever-evolving kind of thing where the chief was asked about that and said, sure, they could help, but you have the mayor and the governor saying we don't need them, but we can't have them if we wanted them because they're not under control of the governor.
And
he doesn't need water either for fires.
Sort of the communication chain, right?
You know,
that there would
why
be
need
multiple
help
agencies working with
from
each
law
other,
enforcement?
starting local.
Why
and
need the
going out
National
all the
Guard?
way in coordination with
Why
each
need
other
water?
to determine who needs help where and how to properly assess the situation. And
Why
in
ask
this
why?
case, it was directly from the federal government, directly from President Trump, to say, okay, the National Guard has been federalized, and that's why it's over there, and now it's up to local law enforcement to deal with the situations that we're monitoring as we speak.
Yeah, he really said if it would have been deployed by the governor, they would be able to go to 50% deployment, which means 50% of the department would address this situation. The other 50% would go and address what's the crime happening. On our streets, and then they would go into mutual aid with the sheriff's department. But because it did not come from the local level up, they are not able to do that. Essentially, they have to.
Then what? Let's get completely out of control.
They're on their own.
And we've already talked about the difficulties of the lines of communication between federal and local and state government. It's non-existent, really. I mean, Supervisor Han told us she has not spoken with the federal government at all. You know, we heard from the chief, who sounds like they did have a meeting with a bunch of federal officials as we watched this person try to remove this planter from the tree. I don't know if they're trying to break off more slabs of concrete. You can see some pretty big ones there in the middle of the screen, but it's just, it's anything that these guys can get their hands on. We've seen park benches, we've seen trees, we've seen all kinds of things being thrown, and now they're going to try to burn the tree, I guess.
They're just going to put it into that dumpster there.
While we
making
s'mores. I want to
s'mores.
go back to Lauren Posen as well, who's keeping an eye on her situation going on right now. Lauren, what are you seeing, and what can you tell us about this fire right here?
Yeah, well, Gio, to me it looks like it's getting bigger. The flames are definitely getting bigger, and the smoke, I've seen black smoke as well, too. Within the last, 5 minutes, there was this huge firework explosion. I don't know if we were rolling on it. If we were, we might be able to play it back for you. It was right over in the back of City Hall. Hang on, what do we have going? Okay, we just have a patrol car coming through. It was just one after another green fireworks that went off over here. And here comes a patrol car going through. Assume he's going that way where the fire is. My executive producer wanted me to paint a little bit of a picture in terms of the graffiti down here. Unfortunately, we can't show it to you because there's a lot of bad language, but I can tell you that nearly every single, well, here goes some more patrol cars here. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And they're going the opposite direction. But back to the graffiti, nearly every single building downtown is coated in graffiti. From City Hall, the side we were on is okay, but leading up to City Hall, the federal buildings down there, of course, the detention center, there's a lot of profanity being used. The sidewalks also have graffiti on them as well. It is a mess downtown. It is a mess.
Here at AZ Health Zone, we're supporting health goals throughout Arizona. Get recipe ideas, activity tips, or a helping hand. Learn more at azhealthzone.org. AZ Health Zone, your health, your way.
Row when you look at the federal buildings. And there we go, another I'm going to call that a firework again, another firework, another flash mob. There we go. Flash mob or fireworks going off over there. Do you guys want to wrap me? I don't know if you want to say something, or if that's what it's like down here.
No, because Lauren, the other thing too I noticed there with and there's another one that's going off right in your live shot. It's just, you see, and just across the screen there, it's one person just going about their night, and then a group of people really congregated toward that fire, just seemingly scattering for a moment before then coming back. It just sort of seems like
thank him for his service,
sake, as opposed to, and we sort of expected this, because as it got darker and later into the evening, who knows what was going to happen, and then we've seen multiple fires and a lot of different pockets of chaos.
That is a great question.
Around the area, even as an unlawful assembly has been declared in all of downtown LA, and we'll see what law enforcement starts to do here over the course of the rest of the evening and the next couple of hours as well.
Yeah, did you see them earlier with the horses?
From Scott Cal in a second, but apparently the protesters
it didn't
now
take
LA
long.
Live. So,
and they started throwing
posting on X a minute ago. Demonstrators have marched to the LA Live area and are blocking all lanes of traffic on Figueroa and 11th. And then reminding everybody, the entirety of downtown Los Angeles has been declared an unlawful assembly, and you are to leave the area immediately or risk
kids
arrest
getting liquid
or
courage there.
Enforcement against you. So, but now, I mean, that's
they were throwing stuff at the horses,
because that is a very geographically that is a big distance from LA Live to where we are here on the border of Civic Center, Chinatown, that kind of area.
Yeah.
That's the whole other side of downtown. So, I mean, that's going to be a whole additional
challenge. Karen wasn't sure if I should do this because she knows.
They were saying that this group that started, through the Civic Center area has now splintered off into tiny little groups, but very disruptive.
I wish I was there, to be honest with you.
And we're seeing some of these.
She says, "Go get it out of yourself."
We weren't seeing them earlier, so you wonder if this is a new group of people just coming down here to.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know if LAPD has LRADs. What LRADs are, it's a disc that sends a signal downstream, and it's just so overpowering. It makes you dizzy, and it can hurt your ears and stuff. So it's a very effective riot tool, and they usually attach them on vehicles.
Just to incite this.
I don't know if they have them, to be honest with you. But it would be cool to see it deployed.
Walking by, I was trying to make out what this person was holding, but it looks like just a sign.
Yeah, just a sign. A lot going on in that situation. Thanks again to Lauren. We'll check back in with her in a second. We want to get back to.
We knew this one was going to go right. I figured, you know what, I'm going to watch this one tonight.
Of the evening and the afternoon. Lori, what are you seeing right now?
Wow.
Okay, so good news from where we are here at Cesar Chavez and Main Street. Things have died down considerably. Oh, Of course, as soon as I say that, there's some more fireworks going off. Every now and then, of course, we do still hear those fireworks, but a lot of the people have at least moved out of the area. And I don't know whether that's good or bad, because they seem to be fluidly looking for other places to kind of occupy as a large mass. In fact, we've had people coming up to us asking, hey, where did everybody go? Where's the protest? Where are we headed? You know, and it's hard to tell because there are so many people scattering in so many directions. But there is a small group still here on the corner across the street near the Chevron, people who are waving flags and certainly trying to get the attention of the drivers as they're going by, people who in cars who are waving their own flags and shouting out to the crowd, shouting support, etc. But such a much different situation than the last time that you came to us, when there was so much chaos, when the dumpster was burning and that out of control car was, you know, driving through the streets, scaring everyone. People were running and fleeing.
Look at these guys all dressed in black.
Stay safe.
No, they came here.
Choppers still are overhead, still shining down here, trying to track where the crowds are going. So there's a couple in a few different directions, so we can tell that the crowd has splintered off. And are keeping law enforcement busy as they kind of move in different directions in large groups. But here where we are, thankfully, a much calmer situation than the last time you came to us, which is good news, even though we do continue to hear those
they're not illegal. Some cities opt for them, others don't.
Calm, which is good. Guys, back to you.
Certainly, that is good news, Lori. Thank you so much. Oh, keeping an eye on this situation right here, where it looks like law enforcement's established a bit of a line here. Not a lot of protesters, really. I mean, you have some folks here waving the flags and signs, and you know, keeping it peaceful, at least from what it looks like from our perspective.
Thanks, Adam.
You zoom out and you see a little bit
Glad
more
to help.
overall. Law enforcement outnumbering people, demonstrators, protesters on this particular corner right here.
Let me see if I can get a picture of an LRAD for
now stretch all the way down to
everybody.
LA Live.
We're
We're trying to make out what our
Yeah, that's a person up there in dark
Mm-hmm.
clothing, directly on the high ground of law enforcement.
Oh.
Not good.
Somebody's got a laser on
There
him.
you go. Running away now.
So I wonder if he
wow.
was throwing stuff at the cops down there. See, that's. I
Would
mean,
that be the LAPD chopper that has the
no, it would be somebody on the ground.
Oh, okay.
And it would be, you see, okay, so I see the laser keep pointing. I can't
Let me
tell
show this to you real
exactly where it's
fast.
coming from. Generally, law enforcement doesn't use that unless they're.
Can you guys see that? Oops. I think I just turned it off. Hang on for a minute. Sorry.
At a moment's notice, but yeah, just a lot to keep track of right now as law enforcement and just a scattering of protesters.
You guys see this? This is an LRAD. You put them on the front. Police cars, Austin PD uses it. And it's a high frequency. It's a sonic weapon.
And then I noticed that someone tagged in front of all these officers the signage in front of LAPD. We can't show you all that it says, but it starts with it says all cops, and then I'm not going to repeat the rest of it, but it is right in front of LAPD headquarters there, and again, right in front of all these officers too. They were able to tag the building there. Now I am noticing, okay, they're just doing a switch out. But again, yes, the fire, it is still growing. It's still there. We're seeing a lot of hearing and seeing a lot of honking, a lot of people still down here. Not sure what everyone's role is down here, if they're just here just to take this all in, or if they're part of the demonstration. I'm not sure, but that fire does seem to be gaining some energy. A block from and there's another firework. You know, I should say too, we did see a coyote that was in here, and he got really scared by all this too. So for the people that are passionate about animals, there are animals down here. There's people that live downtown that have dogs and cats and animals, and fireworks are not good for them, as we talk about this every 4th of July. Plus you have all this going on here too with it's really just quite a mess down here. I can't stress that enough. A mess and a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, Lauren, because you have so many people, you know, you're commenting.
Yeah,
on
what's going to
neighborhoods with
happen?
dogs and everything else. We've
This is
seen
going to
a number
run
of them walking
probably all
their
night.
dogs, and in some cases, when we
I'm
were
not going to go
drawing
all night, to
attention
be honest
earlier
with you,
to the
everybody.
minivan that
But
was
at the
going
same
awry and
time,
a driver being
I think,
incredibly reckless
we're getting
around
close
the
to
area.
it.
There were people walking their dogs and going about their night as normal, and that's blending into the situation that we're all monitoring, which is
The green
lines
laser
and
gives you
rows of
target
law enforcement
acquisition.
established on
Wherever
street
that laser
corners and on
goes,
intersections, and
that's
then
where a
protesters that
projectile or
are
anything
nowhere
else
near
like
the
that
size
can
of what
go.
we saw when it was earlier
Thank
in
you
the
so
afternoon
much.
near the 101 and the overpass and everything else, but still being incredibly disruptive in these pockets, even as LAPD and other law enforcement start, you know, declaring unlawful assemblies and
The
moving
LRAD,
people out. You're seeing it right there. Lori's
it's a
seeing it,
sonic
and it's just it keeps creeping
signal,
up.
and it can make you nauseous.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
It
these
can give
pockets
you
that are the problem
headaches.
tonight, right? And
Can make you
it's just a
delirious.
small. Well, at least where I'm at, a
And there's a
relatively
whole
small
bunch
group
of things
people
that it can do.
that's causing a lot of disruption here. And I wish I
Everlasting
could see
beats,
who's
right.
throwing off these
Supersonic
fireworks, but I just,
everlasting
I
beats.
think they throw them and run, but we can't see from where we are because again, it's dark and it's dark down here.
Lauren, really quickly,
here we
left
go.
side of your screen. This is at LA Live, and there's a fight in the middle of the street, and somebody is on the ground, and they are attacking that person.
That person in that mini bike, right?
Yeah, and I can't tell. I don't know where that. Did they get up? I can't tell for sure.
Yeah, they got up, and someone's coming back and swinging on them again. They're going to try to break it up there.
And this is that LA Live location. That
And in the red corner, the Bloods.
You can hear the sirens
And in the blue
there.
corner,
And the person getting up there seems a
Crips.
little wobbly, obviously.
Oh, no.
You can't have a nice
Looks like somebody
riot
else too.
Yeah.
without a
You're
They're
hoping
doing
that
this
they
good
can just get
best to
driver.
get
out.
out, yeah.
But he's clearly injured and is not, wasn't doing a good job of getting out of there. I mean, and you look, and you know what's disturbing, and I saw it just
And
now on
home
top of
fries
shot, I
is
saw
on
it
his
earlier.
way.
It is so many smiles on faces down there.
Yeah.
I mean, people think this is funny. They think that they're having a great time down there.
I agree.
As they pummel that person in the middle of the road, start fires in the street. It's just really, it's not, whatever message anybody was trying to convey earlier is certainly not being conveyed now.
No, and if anything, the
Yeah,
difference
even the
is
news
even
is
more
getting it,
stark,
guys.
right? Because
Right.
you saw so
This
many
isn't
people
about
protesting with
immigration
signs and with
anymore.
flags and doing it peacefully and
This is
lawfully, but
all
it's those moments of
about
severe
anarchy.
agitation and reaction, like throwing rocks and
Darn, you're
scooters and
1000%
concrete
right.
and fireworks, and then bleeding off into these moments here where it's just so obvious that one is wildly different than the other and doesn't represent what the majority of people are doing. However, with that said, it still becomes incredibly dangerous and serious to monitor and to take care of, because not just people, like we just saw that person on the bike getting pummeled for seemingly no reason, but then law enforcement as well, because there were so many close calls earlier in the evening of rocks and serious items being this close to hitting them in the head, or their cars, engulfed in flames before getting knocked out. It's just a lot to deal with.
No, because the police are behind the signal going out.
That crowd has
Great question. Thank you for
really
asking that
kind
question.
of broken off. They're still taking over.
It's hard to
Oops.
put into
Hang on.
words because you care so much
We're
about
gonna
what
get
you
around
do,
it.
about the people that you serve, the families. I've lived here my entire life.
Segregated there.
Yeah, it's hard to make out what's going on there, but obviously some yelling.
Yeah, I think that's in Lauren's shot, so we
you
might
guys
want to
have
be
my shot
careful. Yeah, we want to be careful with Lauren's shot just because we could hear people's profanity there.
And you also have traffic here. Like there were some cars that were stuck in those groups, and we know how dangerous that can be, especially if you're not really moving all that often.
Agreed.
There's more of it right now, and they're just kind of drifting along. Really, this group.
There are a few people holding signs. There are several people waving flags there, and then you have people that you wonder if they are a part of the protest, or if they're there just to, disrupt. But at this point, it looks like they're turning around and walking back.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like, I was just looking at crypto.com arena. I don't think there was any events there tonight.
Okay.
So that's, good, because the last thing we would need is a stadium full of people funneling out into downtown right now, especially where this group is. And, this is why they declared that unlawful assembly for the entirety of downtown, is because these guys are moving all over the place. And now, as we mentioned, geographically, you're pretty far from where LAPD has the vast majority of their resources.
You'd have to imagine at this point, given the fact that all of downtown has been declared an unlawful assembly, if folks just keep slowly spreading out and further away, you would think that law enforcement would prefer that and hope that just means everybody's just trying to call it a night.
LAPD. Yeah.
They haven't pulled them out.
I was just going to say, that's 9 times out of 10 when we see these protests, or not even, I don't even know what this is anymore, not a protest, but when we see these things start to diminish,
he just said it.
They
He doesn't even know what it is
splinter,
anymore.
The smaller the groups get, the less damage they
If they go after this cop,
look at that.
look at that.
Police car.
That's a no-no.
That's
See
what
there?
you're worried about, obviously.
Objects and bikes at this LAPD vehicle that's coming by here.
Got out of there pretty quickly, though.
Oh, yeah. And that's what you heard the chief talk about earlier when they try to form what are called mobile field forces. That's where they get a group of officers to go all in at once, because you have that situation where you have one officer or one patrol car with 2 officers inside, and they were very, very quickly, attacked by these people in the street.
Yeah,
So
let me
that's
tell you,
why they
that's
don't
some
like to send
scary
just a
stuff.
single patrol car into situations like this, and they want to deal with it with a mobile field force or a different, more significant amount of resources.
And you wonder that patrol car probably not responding to the situation, right? They continued to make their way through.
Yeah.
We don't know for
There's another
sure,
one.
but and another one making their way through, and we're going to monitor if they're able to.
There's more fireworks on the right side of your screen there go off. It's a reminder of what we saw just about 24 hours ago, just last night, when there was one single law enforcement vehicle left alone after they started to clear out in front of the Federal Detention Center, at least in that part of downtown LA, and one was left by itself and tried to make a right onto traffic as opposed to reversing out with the rest of them. And then we saw a large group of people surround that vehicle, try to open doors, throw things at the back windshield, at the front windshield.
They were able to. A large object at the back windshield, shattered it.
And it just became incredibly dangerous for that one single vehicle. And this is what this moment reminded me of just now.
Yeah, you hope that this officer is prepared to leave this area. You see them backing up now, and that is something that they're going to want to do, because we've seen crowds surround the vehicle, and we're hoping.
Tell you, if this officer feels that his life's in danger, he's going to pull a gun.
Now it almost feels like it could get surrounded at any moment.
Look, they're throwing stuff now at the vehicle. And here's the thing: some people stand in front of it and not let the officer move by.
If these guys get boxed in, that's going to be a really bad situation. So I would assume some incident commander is going to notify these patrol units to stay out of this area until they can get a mobile field force or some other group.
See, these are just thugs now. These are just criminals.
Looks like 2 different groups on the.
Yeah, I was trying to make out who that was, but it looks like possibly more demonstrators there,
and really
lined up near Pico Boulevard.
Stretching into essentially every lane of traffic right now. I mean, you hear the honking from other vehicles just trying to make it through right now as they
if LA moved out of this area.
You hear some more in the background. Hard to tell if that was fireworks or
with these thugs on the street.
But, things certainly still fluid.
What has LA become?
And you just fingers crossed.
I feel sorry for
nothing serious happens, but
you good people who were there.
Else sort of picks back up.
This just needs to
keep an eye on this right now.
They need to send
that LAPD did declare an unlawful
50 patrol cars in there and hook everybody up. Everybody goes
right now. As
just grab one.
Crowds and groups that
one
were
at
there
a time.
Start fanning out a little bit more to LA Live and
you hit them with everything. Rubber bullets.
With that, let's get back
bean
to
bags,
Lauren Posen,
tear gas,
monitoring the situation.
And you take them all.
It's hard to tell from your shot. Is that fire still going? Is it out, or what's the situation that you're looking at right now?
Gio, from where I'm at right now, it looks like it might be out, but I don't want to say 100% on that because I can't fully see it. I still see some flames. There's a little bit of flames in the distance there, not as big as before, but there's also a whole bunch of people kind of standing around, so it's hard to tell. There's been an extreme amount of fireworks the last 3 minutes here. People just shooting them off again, and really just kind of jolting everyone.
Yeah, I mean, these are just roving,
LAPD, the front, the signage has been tagged, just done in front of a row of officers here on
this
motorcycle
group
bikes.
is right here.
The entire
It's a roving pack of
downtown here
wolves.
by headquarters. I'm looking at the building right across from the headquarters. That's tagged. The sidewalks are tagged. Everything is tagged. We can't show you what the tagging looks like because there's bad language on it, but I'm sure you can imagine what it says there. Just a very
And the officers don't care.
it's weird because
they're thinking,
traffic is moving. So like on one
well,
hand
the-
you think,
the
okay,
mayor's
well
gotta
it's
pay
almost
for
back
this
to normal,
cleaning
but it's
up.
not, because you have all this chaos kind of going around you here, and especially there's another firework going to go off here. They just threw it. See, there's a group of people on the side of the street there. It's a big group of them, and they're still congregated over there, and they seem to be the ones that are throwing off these
LG,
fireworks.
Tell your husband thank you for his
moving
service.
traffic.
And he's
There we go.
probably
There's
chomping
another
at
one
the bit
too.
to be helped.
Again,
like me.
it's hard to tell what's being amplified. If it's because we're downtown, that's
And
what
Bob,
that's what
we
makes it
jumped
sound
in
louder,
the chat here
or what. But I
a
mean,
little while
it's
ago.
very, very loud. And then
What a
you have
super-
on top of that, you have the
super-
sirens going off too. We have choppers still above us.
Good dude.
And then there's also, like right now, it's almost like eerie moments of quiet.
You're just standing by
Well, I say that
out
and
in
there's
front of
choppers
the
going
PD
off, but
there.
it gets quiet, but then it gets loud again. It's a really, as
So
you've been
it
saying all
starts to
night,
get
it's a
too
fluid
crazy,
situation
they'll-
here.
they'll
But
react.
it's definitely not over, because there's still these pockets of people wanting to be disruptive. I mean, let's call it like it is here. They're being disruptive. They're putting fireworks into the road. They are setting things
Yeah,
on fire.
I think
this
they're
is not
starting
what
to
the governor and
realize
the
it,
mayor
Brenda.
has expressed they want to see.
They've
they want
gone
people
from
to protest
protest
peacefully, and I think that
to,
we've gone beyond
well, I'm
that
not
this
really
evening.
sure what to call it,
Certainly,
to
especially in
now their
pockets.
commentary
You hear
is,
it again there in
look,
the
we can't
background,
defend
and that
this.
group is still huddled around that same area. You've been keeping an eye on, Lauren, and then on the left side of your screen, for those watching at home, you have this large congregation of folks just continuing to move through traffic,
crash.
as if they are the cars in the road, and then inching its way forward. Hard to tell exactly where they're going, or we don't know where they'll end up. But there's another large bang, and in the background, is that more fireworks?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah,
Where
they're
are they
fireworks, and I
shooting
see
from?
now there's people right in the park over here. They're shooting from the back, and they're throwing them to where the cars are. And see, the problem, there's another one. I mean, they are just like launching them. I don't know if you can launch I don't know how they're doing it, but they are launching them.
It looks like they're launching them right
And
at
now
people.
I'm seeing. Yeah, hang on, guys. Possibly the sheriff's department
You're
might
probably
be
a
moving in here
dispatcher.
that I can't fully see from my vantage point, but
Or-
I'm hearing
or an
that
officer.
the sheriff's department might be moving in here.
Either one.
Mike, maybe if you could help me confirm that. It's dark out here. It's hard for me to make everything out, and we have all these. Oh, wait, you know what? I see with a white hat. Okay, like, yeah, right in front of, we might be having, now the patrol cars are coming out here too. They don't have their sirens on, but here go, it's got a lot of
Oh, they're
patrol
gonna
cars
block
coming by
them in.
here. 2, 3,
Let's hope.
I mean, probably more than
They're
a
gonna
dozen,
trap 'em.
or right at a dozen.
Yeah, and Lauren, that does, to me, from this vantage point, well, that's a firework obviously on the right, but what we were listening to earlier did sound more like maybe law enforcement sending some tear gas or some, potentially smoke ammunition.
Okay.
We'll have to see. But that it did kind of look
See?
like that, though you don't really see a heavy law enforcement presence over there. So we do have SkyCal coming back into that area, so we'll try to get a vantage point from there too to see
Be
if we can get a
safe.
better kind of
Thank
picture
you.
of who's launching what.
And can I just say one more thing too, because Gio, we were talking about this earlier. I'm looking at this park here, and I see so many people walking their animals as if like nothing is going on tonight. And I know the dogs have to go out. I understand
Only in
that,
LA.
but
Well,
I don't know.
or
I
New
mean,
York.
I wouldn't be walking when there's
Right,
fireworks
you got
going off. You just
hardcore
don't know what's going to happen.
Angelinos,
I don't know if they're just
hardcore
out here
New
because they want to
Yorkers.
see what's going on, or if the dogs need to
Just
go
as
out.
long as
but,
the fireworks
I
don't
mean,
scare
it's
their
just,
dogs.
there are people
They
just
gotta
walking
get out there
around as if
get it
it's
done.
any other Sunday night.
Yeah, and it's, as we continue our coverage here and kind of it's worth taking a quick step back and reminding folks, because we have such a focus and such a laser focus on downtown LA, because that's where the majority of stuff's been happening, as you hear more of the fireworks going on in the background, because there is certainly, you know, a picture has been painted, or at least attempted to be painted by federal officials, by members of the Trump administration, by the U.S. Attorney as well, and many others, versus the picture that's been painted by people like the mayor, the governor, congressmen and women that we've talked to throughout the evening. And this is just one, this is not all of Los Angeles. This is not all of Southern California. It is a sliver that we are focusing on right now.
No problem, and we totally understand.
And that's, of course, why we're focusing on
it. It's horrible that we're having to experience all this together.
Corners, and that goes back to when we came on air at 4 o'clock and noticing things right on the 101, on the northbound and southbound lanes right there at the overpass.
In fact, I'll give it another maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
To just up the street, and you see those Waymos that were called in and set on fire, to now, you know, crowds moving and dispersing even up toward Chinatown and beyond, because now an unlawful assembly has been declared, and things tend to evolve as we keep getting deeper and deeper into the night.
And we have had other situations pop up, right? We saw at one point some of the people walking down past LA Live, they started attacking or pummeling someone on one of those mini bikes. That looked like maybe they were part of that group of people, but made some agitated them and led to that. Then we saw a driver of a minivan make their way through the streets, and that was a wild situation. They were driving on the sidewalk. Luckily, a sheriff's patrol car was able to stop that person, and no one was hurt there. So there have been other situations that have popped off from the situation, and the tensions really just rising here in downtown LA. I know we do want to go to our Lori Perez. Lori, where are you? What are you seeing?
Let's go over here to the LA Sheriff and watch them. This is starting to get interesting over here.
The update on that as well.
Let me just do a little bit of a reset here. Sure. It's 9:58 in the evening. Typically, we would start the Fox 11 10 o'clock news. And again, solo anchored by Susan Hirosuna, but I'm grateful to have my colleagues Christine Devine and Alex Michelson here, because it has been a remarkable day and something that we have not seen in quite a bit of time. And Alex, you were down at the EOC, so the LA County Emergency Operations Center, and what did you see there? Because what's most unusual to a certain extent is the fact that once the president brought in the California National Guard, federalized them, there wasn't a coordinated effort. We're used to hearing about law enforcement coordinating their efforts, LASD, LAPD, LAFD, etc. And the EOC is where oftentimes that would be the brain. That's where you would do that kind of thing to make sure that it is a coordinated effort.
Governor Newsom was in a meeting with Chief McDonnell, with Sheriff Luna, with Mayor Bass. That was all happening at the Emergency Operations Center. That was busy tonight. They're watching all the TV coverage from all the stations. They're communicating with officials on the ground. So that is very much happening as a way for
so this
California
is a quick response
and
team.
Los Angeles and Los Angeles County officials to work together. The problem is they are clearly not coordinating with the federal government, and that conflict is what you're seeing playing out right now, and is what we're probably going to be seeing playing out in the days ahead.
Did you guys hear that? They're saying that
is probably not ending anytime soon, and with that,
city
we want to welcome
officials
officially the Fox 11 News
are not working with the government officials. Unbelievable.
But we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to us. We're not going to let our USA be torn apart.
I was trying to encourage the administration that if they deployed the National Guard in Los Angeles, it would create a sense of chaos.
We need them. Well, looking at tonight, this thing has gotten out of control.
Stand in the way of law and order.
No offense or anything. This isn't about America.
Breaking right now.
This is about politics.
Chaos in
and guess what?
Los Angeles.
It's tearing America
as
apart.
protests against President Trump's immigration crackdown continue
Americans,
to escalate.
doesn't matter what side you're on.
From Skyfox on what's going on right now, although that looks like Oh, that is Skyfox Live right now. They just passed over crypto.com to give you a sense for location
the politicians need to pay attention to the people,
a lot of the protesters
not the other way
dispersed. We do hear that LAPD has actually made it official that there is a disbursement order and that people have to leave the downtown area. We are happy to see that people are on the move and they're not just standing in one place. That seems to be when things get a little bit more dodgy as far as the action of some of these agitators. Now, a lot of this started because of the deployment of hundreds of National Guard troops, which then sparked some outrage with demonstrators who blocked freeways and then clashed with local law enforcement. And once again, we say good evening to you. I'm Susan Hirasuna.
I'm Alex Michelson. Governor Gavin Newsom, Mayor Karen Bass, both calling for the Guard to be removed, saying their president is inflaming the situation. The governor actually going to announce a lawsuit tomorrow to say what the president's doing is illegal. Time for them to get out.
Yeah, he mentioned the fact that he feels like this threatens the state's sovereignty. All right, we're going to go now to Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf. We have been going to you multiple times in the course of this evening, Matthew. Where you are right now, have things started to...
I think that's... good for the evening. What do you think? The whole kit and caboodle it's going to go even worse tonight. I'll bet it's going to go worse. So thank you so much for being with me tonight, going through this, and hopefully the law enforcement and the authorities, both federal and state, local, are able to go home to their families in safety this evening, and to keep you, American citizens, doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, you have a right to be safe. So do they. God bless America. Thank you for all those who've served in the military and who've given everything so that we could have riots in the streets. Unbelievable. God bless you. Have a good evening. Let's go to the Hawaii.
Hard working every day. I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, yeah. Make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away. You and me go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away.